Warrior Lore. Chapter 260. We will kill Zhuo Fan. Chapter 260. We will kill Zhuo Fan. The next day, Dragon Cloud City's fighting stage was enveloped by a roaring crowd shouting their cheers on the stage. Two youths stood thrilled and panting, surrounded by either dead or wounded people. The winner of today's battle hails from Crescent Sword City, the Zhuo clan. They are advancing to the final battle. A profound heaven expert stepped on stage and gestured at the youths. The crowd exploded with applause, raising the excitement of the two. They left the stage and walked to their cheering clan. Big brother, second brother, congratulations. Xuening Xiang gave them a hug and a sweet smile. The two were Shuegang and Xuelin. After the horrors of Blue Expanse City, Xie Tianyang saved them and their clan became Sword Marquis Abode's vassal. It was the only way they could have joined the esoteric debate. Ganger, Liner, you've done well. You are now ready to join the final battle and help Sword Marquis Abode's young masters in their fight. Xue Wanlong laughed with pride. Remember, never let down our clan and protect the two young masters. Patriarch Xue Dingtian nodded at the side. Thanks to Xie Tianyang, their clan was under Sword Marquis Abode's wing, cared for and well supplied. But this left them uneasy, and they were going to use this chance to repay their help. This was the reason for joining the esoteric debate. Shuegang and Xuelin nodded. Filled with battle spirit, Xie Tianyang stood next to Xuening Xiang, sighing, Uncle, why did you let the brothers join such a cruel battle? This time's battle will be far more deadly and vicious than any of the past ones. I fear. Second young master, I have made my decision. We cannot go on receiving Sword Marquis Abode's grace without giving anything back. Please give us this chance to show our gratitude. Xue Wanlong cupped his hands. Xie Tianyang sighed. The profound heaven expert on the stage suddenly said, the next fight will be between Drifting Flowers City's Dong clan and Flood City's Yu clan. Two familiar figures walked on stage. Xie Tianyang's eyes brightened. Who knew we'd see them here? Aren't they brother Dong and sister Waner? You know them as well? Xuening Xiang was startled. Xie Tianyang looked at her instead. Ninger, how do you know them? Drifting Flowers Edifices and Sword Marquis Abode are allies. We met when the two houses gathered for negotiation. Brother Dong is somewhat frivolous, but Waner is very nice. Ninger smiled. How do you know them? Disciples of the Seven Houses hardly ever meet with people from second-rate clans. We met in Drifting Flowers City. I hear that Dong Xiaowan and the kid have something going on between them. Xie Tianyang grinned, thinking of having a little payback. Xuening Xiang looked closer at Dong Xiaowan and muttered. No wonder she never said anything when the topic about who she likes came up. Correct. The two Dong siblings were those Dongs because of their ties with Zhuo Fan back in Drifting Flowers City, and having gotten familiar with Drifting Flowers Edifice's leaders, the Dong clan had been on a swift rise. They had long outstripped the title of vassal clan and moved to Drifting Flower City to become their trusted aide. The old master of the Dong clan couldn't be happier and stated that they had to go and see their most treasured benefactor in the flesh. Of course, such a thing wasn't so easy to achieve, not with how busy Zhuo Fan was. If he wasn't blowing something up, he was beating the life out of someone. The likes of him could hardly squeeze a meeting between his murderous rampage and endless mayhem. Thanks to Drifting Flowers Edifice's help, Dong Tianba had entered the profound heaven stage, displaying his majestic air on today's stage. In but half an hour, he and his sister won over their opponents and arrived next to their clansmen and friends. Young Master Xie, Uncle Xie, Sir Xie, Brother Xie, how do you do? Dong Tianba cupped his hands in pride. Dong Xiaowan bowed as well with a smile. The others nodded. While Shuegang had eyes only for Dong Xiaowan and her charming smile, everyone could tell what he was thinking. Brother Xue, how have you been? I never thought our clans would enter the final battle. We will be fighting alongside, it seems. Ha ha ha. A portly man came over. Dong Tianba and Dong Xiaowan cupped their hands. Dad. Xue clan greeted in kind, but only when he saw Xie Tianyang did the old man greet back. He was the Dong clan head. Dong clan head pointed at Shuegang. Young master is of great talent. Could I be so bold as to ask if you're married? No. Xue Dingtian smiled. His meaning clear. Dong clan head nodded and smiled at his daughter. What a fine coincidence. Neither is my daughter. I find our clans so friendly that I was wondering. Dad. Dong Xiaowan gave him the stink eye and with sullen Xiang could see herself in her and shook her head. The two already had someone and were not going to just change their minds at the drop of the hat. Meanwhile, the profound heaven expert on the stage said, "The next fight is between Sunspire City's Hong Clan and Blue Expanse City's Sun Clan." Shuddering, the Shui clan turned to the stage. Blue Expanse City used to be their turf while being Hell Valley's vassal. Since betraying their patron, Blue Expanse City fell under another clan's jurisdiction. Bluntly put, the Sun Clan was their replacement. Hell Valley's brand new lapdog, the Sun Clan, only sent a man and a woman to fight against 50 bone-tempering experts, led by 2 profound heaven cultivators. Such power among second-rate clans made it a seeded clan, closely approaching the qualifications to be a first-rate clan. Against such strength, the Sun Clan sent merely 2, a really odd pair. Their eyes released a bloody glow, and closely resembled monsters rather than humans. Not even their appearances could be distinguished. The sight of them standing there sent shivers among many, as if they were demons who sprang out of hell. But upon closer look, they were only peak bone-tempering cultivators. 2 peak bone-tempering cultivators want to mess with 50 experts? The leading youth snickered. From your demonic look, living must have been hard, and you've come for the sweet release of death, right? Ha ha ha. The others laughed as well. That demonic man, however, was wrapped in black energy, as it suddenly jumped from him with a roar. A veritable fountain of blood bloomed. While the Hong Clan youth fell with a perplexed look, he was still wondering how a peak bone-tempering cultivator killed him. The others gasped. Hong Clan's laughter died, and watched the pair of enemies in shock. How could a fresh, profound heaven expert die in one blow? A sneak attack for sure. With a shout, the 50 men from Hong Clan stormed the pair. The two only had a creepy grin as they turned into black mist and roamed among them. The slaughter began. Not of the pair, but of those 50 experts, as the 2 crazed monsters were unleashed upon them. Wails, sobbing, and horror grated on the audience's ears. In just 15 minutes, they were the only ones standing, while the corpses around them had their throats ripped out. Blood soaked into the arena, and the dead stare of the bodies gave a glimpse into the cruelty they had just suffered. Xiang had long since covered her eyes. Xie Tianyang's brow was furrowed. What made these guys act with such brutality? The girl on stage suddenly snapped her head back and pointed at the Shui clan with a nasty grin. "Traitor of Hell Valley, you will die in the final battle, by our hands. None of you will live. We will cleanse the Hell Valley of its traitors. Your time will soon come." Hi. The Shui clan felt a shiver run down their very core. This pair was way too abnormal. Not just the sons, but even the father and patriarch felt their hair stand on end. Xie Tianyang stepped up and shielded Xiang as he roared, "Stop barking. I would like to see you try and touch the Shui clan." Second young master Xie, "Our house lord's son will deal with you, and we will deal with the traitorous Shui clan." Snickering, the girl threw her head back. The creepy way she talked and her posture only worked to deepen one's fear. The man next to her said, "Don't forget our main objective, the Luo clan. Shui clan is just a side dish." "You're after the Luo clan?" Xiang was worried. On the other hand, Xie Tianyang felt relief. A few days back he would have been worried as well, but not now, because the Luo clan had recovered their pillar, the demon Archon Zhuo Fan, with him around. These weirdos looked like imps in comparison. Going after the Luo clan was a death sentence, but the man saw Xiang's distress and reveled in it. "Yes, we will find the Luo clan and slaughter them all. Especially that Zhuo Fan. We will tear him limb from limb." Xiang's pure heart was stuck in her throat, vexed over Zhuo Fan's safety. "Brother Zhuo, 2 bad men are after you." While Xie Tianyang almost burst out laughing. "Dude, have you even seen Zhuo Fan? Have you seen his power? What is your boasting based on, hot air? Not even a moron will believe such a lame joke." But then he saw Xiang sick with worry and amended his thoughts with a twitch of his cheek. Ninger excluded. She was no moron, just naive. Chapter 261, Limelight. Chapter 261, Limelight. "Look, Hell Valley's men are here," someone from the crowd shouted, and everyone turned their heads to see Yuan Shan and his elder detail. He stood on the highest point with a somber look, flanked by Yu Ming and the rest of their other disciples participating in the final battle, as this place was the fighting grounds for third and second-rate clans. With how not even first-rate clans would come here to watch, least of all the 7 houses, there were no honorary seats for them. What stirred the biggest shock was the sudden appearance of Hell Valley, taking seat at the highest position. They could see the whole stage from there, but it was also a strategic position to emphasize the usual disdain the 7 houses had for these puny clans. But what was up with this sudden arrival? Who had caught their eye? Were they going to enjoy the show alongside them? Or was there a new star on the rise no one knew about? If it was the latter, who was this person and what was he capable of to garner such ostentatious audience? The crowd grew restless with their speculations. Sun Clan's creepy guy noticed Yuan Shan's imposing figure and showed a morbid smile. See? Valley Lord, you came to personally watch us crush your clans. This is how much Hell Valley values us. Yeah, we're not like those Shui traders. Valley Lord finds us indispensable. Sun Clan's creepy girl showed a morbid smile herself. Shui Clan only gave the duo a cursory glance, while being concerned about Hell Valley's real intentions. Hell Valley came to cheer for the Sun Clan? How is that even possible, when they have never shown such care for any vassal before? Xie Tunyang mocked, cocky brats. Yuan Shan isn't so bored as to watch a couple of aberrations. Say that again. What else would Valley Lord you be here for? There's only us around. Who is Hell Valley's vassal? The girl roared. Xie Tianyang shrugged. The 7 houses only ever cared about each other, and never about some squirming ants trying to get some praise. You're disillusioned if you think he came here to cheer for you. And then another sudden cry of shock came, followed by another unexpected arrival, and while Hell Valley's men were emitting deadly auras, the newcomers were graceful women with thin veils, drifting flowers edifices. Grandmother was in the lead as Chu Qingcheng was still nursing her wound. Behind her were her entire overseer contingent and the drifting flowers edifices disciples participating in the final battle. Even Xiao Dandan was among them, darting her eyes around and looking for her special someone. Here comes another lovesick lass. That punk will be so annoyed. Xie Tianyang snickered. Dong Clan head puffed up his chest and took on a prideful air. Ha ha ha. I didn't expect drifting flowers edifices overseers to come support us. Our Dong Clan is so cherished. We may be drifting flowers edifices' trusted aid, but to receive such care, ha ha ha. The guy was grinning from ear to ear and making the Shui clan envious. His position seemed to be so high that even the edifice lord came in person. Only Xie Tianyang sighed. It seems narcissism is an inherent trait of these vassals. Not just aberrations are susceptible to it, but even normal people. What in the hell gave you the idea that the 7 houses came to see you specifically? Then came the third cry of the day. Shui clansmen watched overwhelmed with joy. Why? Because Sword Marquis abode Xie Xiaofeng was leading Xie Tianshang and his elders over Patriarch Shui Dingtian was touched to the core as he showed off to the Dong clan head. Ha ha ha, clan head. Sword Marquis abode values us quite a lot as well. Wait. He didn't get to finish his haughty words, as Xie Tianyang interrupted him. Everyone, I know fully well my words may sound crass, but could you cool off for a second and stop with the self-important attitude? Those house lords haven't even looked at you once, so how can you say they've come for you? The sudden wake-up call made them realize the wisdom in his words. If not for us, then who? This was a fighting stage for the 7 houses' vassals. Xie Tianyang shook his head. If there was anything the 7 houses paid attention to, besides each other of course, was strength. Who else but that punk could stir up so many of them to come here? While they were vexed by this conundrum, Pil King Hall appeared with a 4th cry. Yin Bagong led Yin Bongi and Yin Fu with his elders over. They were soon followed by Mary Woods' house lord Lin coming with his elders and a bouncing Lin Xianfeng. After a night of healing, Lin Xuanfeng's wound was closed, even though he hopped about with a pale face. The audience was amazed. Is this forest fleeting dragon one of the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix? Why does he have only 1 leg? How would he fleet through the forest now? Few were aware of the circumstances regarding forest fleeting dragon's misery. How the vile soaring demonic dragon ripped his leg clean off. But the biggest shock of all was what came next. The head of the 7 houses, Regent Estate, Huangpu Tianyuan, was leading the group, with Regent Estate Steward, Long Wuchang on his left, and his eldest, the head of 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, heaven-shaking dragon lord Huangpu Qingtian on his right. Behind them was a team of profound heaven elders, 30 in number. The frightening display made everyone's hair stand on end. The other 6 houses also paused at their entrance. Region Estate's power was unquestionably the highest among the houses. It had the ambition to swallow the others for good reason. It would have been a waste of their might if they didn't aim for at least this much. Under the riveting gazes of the crowd, Huangpu Tianyuan made his way forward with a regal air and boundless power that stopped anyone from breathing within 300 meters. Only when Regent Estate took the foremost position did the man slowly withdraw his power, but the damage, or deterrence, was done. In his wake, the people were left shivering and gasping. That was enough to rouse up even the narcissistic trio of clans from their arrogance. The presence of all the 7 houses had nothing to do with them at all. Thinking about what loudmouths they were seconds ago, they started blushing like crazy. The Dong, Shui, and even the Sun clan's aberrations were stiff and awkward. This only helped to fuel their curiosity. Why were they all here? For whom? Xie Tianyang knew it all along. Of course, the profound heaven expert on the stage stood on pins and needles under the stare of all those mighty figures. He shakily took out the roster. He was the king of this stage, but not anymore. 'Cause now he was a bottom feeder among all these big shots. He swallowed down while shaking and shouted, "The next fight will be between Zephyr City's Wan clan and Windgaze City's Luo clan." Every head turned to the dark entrance of the stage to see the greatest underdog in this esoteric debate, Luo clan. Even though the Luo clan's 28 strong men were quite something, the more they advanced the harder it became. Case in point, they left the last battle while supporting each other. Their opponent, the Wan clan, was a renowned second-rate clan. It even had 3 profound heaven youths. The crowd was eagerly awaiting for the Luo clan, but their prospects at winning were slim at best. Tap, tap, tap. A light noise was heard as Luo Yunhai was coming out on crutches, leaning on his sister towards the stage. The crowd shock passed and was replaced by sighs. They all saw Luo Yunhai's valor and might, fearless as a tiger. And this tiger was an indispensable force in the Luo clan's team, yet now he had an unexplained wound, which only crippled their chance of victory even more. Wan clan's 20 strong men were already on the stage and were now snickering. Victory's ours. But then a plain figure slowly made itself noticed by walking behind the siblings. He caught the attention of all the houses. Regent Estate, Hell Valley, and their other 2 allies bore a deep hatred for Zhuo Fan. They suddenly released a deadly aura that made the audience shiver. It all makes sense now. The 7 houses came for him. Playing with his flickering thunder ring, Zhuo Fan walked without a care in the world. His deep gaze, his far-off look seemed to find everyone beneath him. This was how Zhuo Fan followed after Luo Yunchang. With a charming and faint smile, the biggest shock was received by those who didn't know Zhuo Fan. Who is he? Why are the 7 houses here for him? Dong Tianba and Dong Xiaowan went slack-jawed. They never ever thought they'd meet him here. Dong Xiaowan in particular, her gaze was filled with complicated emotions. Joy, sadness, and a hint of relief. Shui Wanlong and Shui Dingtian were shocked as well. They never thought that the young brat they met in Allbeast Mountain Range would appear here. Soaring demonic dragon. The shout had caused another round of shock among the crowd as their eyes never strayed from Zhuo Fan. He is the Luo clan's strongest? The same soaring demonic dragon on par with 6 dragons and 1 phoenix? The Luo clan's main force has come out in the open. The crowd watched eagerly, thrilled to witness a good show. Chapter 262, Cheerleaders/Groupies. Chapter 262, Cheerleaders/Groupies. Old Pang, stay here and look after them. Zhuo Fan spoke behind him to Captain Pang and the young guards before walking on stage alone. The crowd wondered, alone against Wan clan's 20 strongest? But then recalled that he had a title akin to the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix and got excited at the prospect. This was what everyone wanted to see. The extent of power one man possessed to make the 7 houses pay so much attention to Brother Zhuo. Fingers crossed. Shui Ningxiang cheered with an adorable face, staggering for a second there. Zhuo Fan waved back slightly with a smile. Dong Xiaowan waved as well, but found him not even noticing her and was peeved. Ninger, are you and Brother Zhuo close? He saved my clan's lives. Shui Ningxiang nodded, but then found Dong Xiaowan gloomy and mumbled, Sister Wanner, sorry. It's fine. He never even looked at me anyway. Dong Xiaowan shook her head. Sullen Dong clan head gleaned something out of all of this and asked Dong Tianba, Is that youth who I think it is? Dong Tianba nodded and sighed. His sister had been love-struck since back in Drifting Flower City. Her crush never spared her a glance, while she pined for him every moment. I can't tell if she is foolish or silly. Darling, good luck. Crush them all. A cute voice came from Drifting Flower's edifice's side and slammed into the ears of the audience. Xiao Dandan was practically jumping in her seat, gesticulating wildly to make sure he saw her. Zhuo Fan held his head. What's this idiot doing here? Is Drifting Flower's edifices so understaffed? How is she fit to join the Seven Houses' final battle with her cultivation? Cannon fodder is more like it. Pulling Xiao Dandan back down, Peony Overseer cursed. Why can't you act proper instead of some lovesick maiden? Humph, me and Darling have already tied the knot. He'll come around. Xiao Dandan pouted, still clinging to her hope. Sighing, Peony Overseer said, this girl has lost it. On the other hand, Xie Tianyang was laughing his head off, using this chance to gossip with Xuening Xiang. Ninger, see that? This punk is a womanizer. He got another one just like that. And I can attest to having seen them kissing in public myself. Xie Tianyang laughed and sighed. Time to cash in on the scheme I cooked back in Drifting Flowers edifices. Xuening Xiang's eyes were fixed on Zhuo Fan, having a sinking and uncomfortable feeling in her heart. The looks Zhuo Fan got from the audience were odd, to say the least. This kid's the bomb. He goes around the Seven Houses, spreading chaos and destruction, while not forgetting to sow the seeds of love. Lady Killer Demonic Dragon is far more appropriate. Steward Zhuo, you are a true man of mercy to show such restraint in your travels. Luo Yunchang towered behind Zhuo Fan with a sweet smile, and yet the killing intent in her eyes made her close to a demon. Zhuo Fan shrugged it off. I only did what I had to. The rest was a force of circumstance, out of my control. Force of circumstance, you say? Luo Yunchang teased and held his face. Zhuo Fan was caught off guard. What are you doing? Force of circumstance. Grinning, Luo Yunchang looked at him longingly and smooched him. Zhuo Fan felt her soft lips, but didn't get to relish in the sensation as Luo Yunchang swished her head away, blushing. But the look in her eyes was that of a blissful maiden. Steward Zhuo, good luck. Luo Yunchang batted her eyes at him, then shot a glance towards Drifting Flowers edifices. Chu Qingqing's eyes were spitting fire right about now, her teeth crunching so hard even grandmother could hear. Xiao Dandan was having a hard time swallowing down her anger. She was ready to jump at that hussy's throat. Fortunately, Peony Overseer was there to rein her in. Who is she? How dare she force herself on Darling? That's their clan's matter. It has nothing to do with you. Peony Overseer sighed. Xiao Dandan whined. That's my darling. Of course it has. Xie Tianyang found the ever-sweet and cheerful Xuening Xiang wearing a mask of anger and sorrow. This is a cat fight only a man can stir. But why do I get the feeling even my cute and lovely Ninger wants to join the battlefield as well? The audience was even more shocked. That's no demonic dragon. That's a love doctor, I tell you. While actually, they felt jealousy and anger. Being a skirt chaser is a skill as well. Huangpu Tunyuan twiddled his mustache with a cold eye. Sir Long, who among these girls is his Achilles heel? They all have a crush on him, but he ignores them completely. It's too soon to tell if any of them can be called his weakness. This needs further observation. Lung Wucheng's eyes flashed. Huangpu Tianyuan nodded. Zhuo Fan was out of it for a second there, then saw Luo Yunchang's rosy cheeks and rubbed her head. Young Miss Luo, you're not getting weird on me, are you? You're the weird one. Now get on stage. With a glare, Luo Yunchang pushed him forward with that charming and touching look. She made quite a number of hearts skip a beat in the crowd. Zhuo Fan shook his head and went on. Just then, two figures wrapped in black energy popped up in front of him. The Blue Expanse City's Sun Clan duo. Looking at the two creepy aberrations, Zhuo Fan was stunned. You need something? Hi, Zhuo Fan. You can't tell who we are? The man let out an eerie laughter, followed by the girl. Zhuo Fan shook his head. Sorry, I've sinned so much I don't keep track of how many I've wronged. If you're here for revenge, kindly wait your turn. I'll be with you in a second to send you to the afterlife. Hi. Zhuo Fan, you're as arrogant as ever. But we aren't the same as before. This time it's you who dies. The man's eyes flashed bloody red. Zhuo Fan nodded. I get it now. I've never seen such ugly freaks in my life. Going through such a nasty makeover, of course I couldn't recognize the current you. The crowd erupted in laughter. Even the girls who were glaring at each other giggled, breaking off their cat fight. Only the duo on stage was pissed. Zhuo Fan, that's enough. Another shout came and two more figures wrapped in black smoke appeared as they landed in front of Zhuo Fan. They were old men in the fifth layer of profound heaven stage, but their faces were as creepy and disturbing as the duo's. Zhuo Fan, you've mocked and derided us ever since we met. It's because of you we look like this. Today, we will take your head as revenge. One of the old men said savagely. Luo Yunchang frowned. You came for revenge, but we do not even know how we've offended you. Humph, Yunchang, have you forgotten? Destruction of our clan, being cast out, are these not reasons enough? The old man spat. Luo Yunchang was still puzzled, but Zhuo Fan caught onto something and mocked. Oh, so it's you. Who knew you ended up so pathetic and turned into freaks? Now that you've lost all reason to live, you've come to me for reincarnation? We came to kill you or die together. The old man's mind was set. Snickering, Zhuo Fan said, even if you came to kill me, you ought to get in line. After I deal with the ones on stage, I don't mind finishing off the lot of you as well. The four nodded as the saying went, know thyself and your enemy, and you'd be ever victorious. It paid to know what the other party was capable of, so the four cleared a path for Zhuo Fan to go on stage. By now, the 20 strong fighters on stage were grave. They had lost the mockery and disdain they had for the bone-tempering Zhuo Fan. They just found out that he can stand tall like 6 dragons and 1 phoenix and changed their thinking. How were they going to beat such a monster? Heck, not even a first-rate clan could do him in. But since they were on stage already, the fight was unavoidable. They came to esoteric debate in hopes of coming under the wing of the 7 houses. After all this, made every fight a chance to show their spirit and worth. A chance they would never miss. Soaring demonic dragon, come? One clan's leader cupped his hands, ready for battle. He was sweating buckets, but that didn't stop him from braving through the fear. Wait? Zhuo Fan smiled. My Luo clan will definitely enter the final battle, and this is too much of a hassle. So in order to move things along, let all clans, from third to first-rate, step in. If I lose, we walk. If I win, we'll go straight to the final battle, fighting with the 7 houses. SSS. A round of gasps echoed. He wants to fight every clan. Alone? That was just too outrageously cocky. His words only sparked anger in every clan present, while only the 7 houses looked on calmly. They were the only ones who knew all too well of Zhuo Fan's cunningness and deceit. Chapter 263. A Shocking and Devastating Strike. Chapter 263. A Shocking and Devastating Strike. The clans were outraged at Zhuo Fan's haughty declaration, while also terrified of the one they called Soaring Demonic Dragon. The profound heaven expert directing the fights said to Zhuo Fan, this isn't in the rules. What matters is strength. That's how one earns their right to participate in the final battle. Grinning, Zhuo Fan stuck out his chin as he turned to the 7 houses. And it's a perfect time to show them who they're up against. Such ego to consider himself the 7 houses' equal. He instantly earned the disdain of the crowd. While those that knew of his exploits with the 7 houses thought, the kid sure is qualified. Huangpu Qingtian stepped forward and watched the stage coldly. The appearance of Regent Estate's eldest young master shocked them all. They soon heard a clear and mighty voice ringing in their ears. The words had such impact they almost had a heart attack, do as per his wishes. But Huangpu Qingtian drew his arm over the crowd. I declare that anyone who brings me Zhuo Fan's head, their clan will become Regent Estate's vassal. SSS. After a round of gasps, a deathly silence ensued. The clans were so overwhelmed they couldn't dare believe their ears. This is God sent. One little head was enough to skip the cruel and deadly esoteric debate's last battle, and just come under Regent Estate's wing. What they didn't know, however, was that this dream was closer to a nightmare than reality, but the promise of greatness robbed their minds of what was to come. Their eyes were fixed on Zhuo Fan, wishing they were already holding his head. All they were waiting for now was that profound heaven expert's signal, and they'd be onto him like wolves. No one even stopped to think that this free meal could be too hard to even chew. Was Zhuo Fan's title of Soaring Demonic Dragon. on par with 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, 4 not. Young Master Huangpu, you're sending them to their deaths. Zhuo Fan was carefree as he showed an evil grin to Huangpu Qingtian. Huangpu Qingtian responded with the same smile. Isn't this what you wanted? Then they laughed. Zhuo Fan wanted to cause a sensation, all right, to establish Luo clan's position in the upcoming final battle. So the more people that jumped on his sword, the better. While Huangpu Qingtian never once believed these second- and third-rate clans had any good seeds among them to even harm Zhuo Fan, he was using them to see Zhuo Fan's limit and develop contingencies. Each side understood the other's intent flawlessly. All while using each other, it was a win-win scenario. The only losses here would be just your run-of-the-mill rock-for-brains suicidal morons. The 7 houses noticed this as well, and they were stunned looking at the laughing duo. These two are devious and cruel men of ambition. They gaze far into the horizon. In this esoteric debate, the winner would come from one of them, but as the world wasn't big enough for the two of them, they had to settle their score here and now. Or the world would be plunged into chaos at their hands, ripped apart and burned to cinders. The House Lords watched them with glinting eyes. The esoteric debate was going to revolve around these two monsters, Huangpu Qingtian and Zhuo Fan, each leading his own faction of houses. Something unheard of in the past esoteric debates. The battle for unification was underway, and nothing or anyone could stop it. All that was left was to see who had the last laugh. This was something privy to the 7 houses only. Those crickets downstairs only knew how to fight among each other for scraps. The presiding profound heaven expert got his nod of approval and flew up high, soon followed by his clear words, Luo clan's qualifying fight for the final battle begins. Roar. The clans flung themselves like mindless beasts at Zhuo Fan. They were all spectators turned opportunists. What used to be innocent bystanders were now fired up by the smell of blood and glory. They were all just one gory head away from becoming the foundation of their clan's endless fame. Who could fight the temptation? Perhaps they were lucky enough and would even get it, and the number who thought so was by no means small as such. The referee's words were marked by a veritable flood of people storming the stage. It was close to 10,000 people, with plenty of bone tempering and profound heaven experts joining as well. The Wan clan already on stage was overwhelmed. Zhuo Fan was their opponent, but, as things stood, did they even have a snowball's chance in hell to rob the guy's head from the masses? Luck was with them in that regard, being so close and all. Yet when they looked deep into Zhuo Fan's bottomless gaze, the 20 strong men found themselves frozen. The incoming tide behind them was oblivious, rushing onwards like clueless children swept by the promise of reward. As they launched attacks on Zhuo Fan, the thousands of people swallowed Zhuo Fan until he was no longer visible. Xuan Xiang was worried. Will Brother Zhuo be fine? Totally. With that punk's luck, not even the 7 houses can do anything to him, let alone these pests. Xia Tianyang comforted Ninger, but he was nonetheless frowning. But isn't thousands of people at once perhaps an overkill? The punk is amazing, sure, but there is also the danger of dying from exhaustion. Why is he waiting them out? Why isn't he thinning the crowd? Hi. No matter how strong, he is all alone against the tide. He is finished. A creepy laughter jarred his ear. The audience, or what was left of it, turned to the creepy man to hear him say, "A shame we are already under Hell Valley and cannot throw our lot with Regent Estate. We would have been in there cashing our luck otherwise." And true. Dong Clan Head nodded. Warner glared at him. Dong Clan Head shook his head as he looked at the sea of people on the stage. These are cruel words, but that is reality. Regent Estate's bait is too enticing for anyone to resist. Not even the kid would have thought his egotistical words would stir such a reaction. Even if he dies, he only has himself to blame. Dong Clan Head sighed, as did Shui Wanlong and Shui Dingtian. Xuaningxiang and Dong Xiaowan watched on, plagued with worry. Dong Tianba and the Shui clan's youths were frowning. But only Xia Tianyang had a mocking smile. Egotistical? Of course he is. But have you ever seen how cautious he is? How could a brash and obnoxious kid ever manage to toy with Yugiki? Xia Tianyang was not one bit worried for Zhuo Fan's fate. He knew Zhuo Fan showed cockiness on the outside, but never actually did something unless he had a plan set in motion. An invisible ripple spawned in the center of the stage, swallowing it whole. The force of it had Huangpu Tianyuan squinting. He watched as the tide of people on the stage had blank stares before collapsing. All the contestants dropped on the ground one at a time. With the crazed and thirsty greed frozen on their faces, those outside the stage stopped in their charge. Watching the stage tensely, Zhuo Fan touched the buffed guy in front with his finger and let him collapse. The ground around him was littered with bodies. Not that he cared. Stepping over them in his conquering march like a king, he was stepping on the bodies of his enemies as he took his throne. Xuaningxiang and Dong Xiaowan were overjoyed while Dong Clan Head, Shui Clan Head were shell-shocked. What just happened? What's wrong with them? The shock on everyone's faces was palpable. Zhuo Fan was uncaring, looking over the leftovers, still standing and cocking his finger with a nasty grin. There's still 1,000 left. Come and take my head if you want it. Swallowing dryly, they were now faltering. Their previous high had passed, as did their courage. The sight of an evil and grinning Zhuo Fan in the middle of thousands of bodies tended to do that to a feeble mind. Killing with intent. Huangpu Qingtian's eyes trembled. His quiet voice spread everywhere among the deathly silence in an instant. Everyone looked at Zhuo Fan in shock. Isn't that a radiant stage expert's ability? Why is a bone-tempering cultivator wielding it? The fear in their eyes couldn't be more pronounced. This was why so many people dropped lifeless without even a chance to fight back. The one that killed them was on par with a radiant stage expert. Chapter 264, Tyrant. Chapter 264, Tyrant. All the big shots from the 7 houses were overwhelmed at Zhuo Fan's power, having exceeded their expectations by a long shot. What was considered a freak body cultivator, harder than diamonds, had in a single step crossed over the profound heaven stage and went straight to using radiant stage's abilities, leaving these old fogies eating dust. Bluntly put, these 7 houses' big shots were so daft that not even one had touched upon the radiant stage, and that shame came crashing down, evident by their flushed faces. What is wrong with this generation? One freakier than the last. If these bags of bones were of Zhuo Fan's age, they'd be dancing in joy if they had the hope of even entering the profound heaven stage. But now, it only brings us tears. Out with the old and in with the new, they always say. But the new has kicked us to the curb with this display. Sigh. As the old bones watched the imposing and daunting Zhuo Fan on stage, their eyes glistened with tears, feeling as if they had aged a few centuries on the spot. Huangpu Qingtian was having a hard time containing himself, evident by the gnashing teeth and clenched fists he showed off, killing with intent last night, to flounce his almightiness and scare the living daylights out of Zhuo Fan. But come tomorrow, Zhuo Fan replied with the same coin, making his act anything but of a circus clown. Such a display of power would leave anyone wallowing in their refuse from fright. As to what Zhuo Fan did after this display, not only bitch-slapped him but threw him from the highest peak into the deepest abyss. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that his act yesterday was of foolishness. Zhuo Fan picked on his shame and did what he liked doing best, egging Huangpu Qingtian on with an exaggerated middle finger and a quirk of his eyebrows. Words were hardly necessarily at this stage in getting his point across. Huangpu Qingtian's eyes were spitting flames at this point, having long crossed the limits of his tolerance, but Lung Wuchang held his shoulder, stopping him from acting out by getting rid of these third- and second-rate clans. Zhuo Fan spoke aplenty. By killing with intent, taken as his weapon of choice, he spat on Huangpu Qingtian's bravado while also slapping him around for good measure. Could any living being take it? And yet he did. He knew this was neither time nor place for such an altercation. OL Poisoner, have you ever seen the eldest young master lose his cool? Yu Yushan walked over to Yin Bongyi, shaking his head. Yin Bongyi's face was grave. Not even once. Same. But the punk sure knows how to push the eldest young master's buttons. He chuckled for a second before sighing. By the looks of it, the final battle revolving around 6 dragons and 1 phoenix for so many centuries has now turned into heaven-shaking Dragon Lord versus soaring demonic dragon. All we can do is stay back and cheer, like mere squires. We were so useless yesterday as well. Yin Bongyi recalled how Zhuo Fan had popped up in his face and shuddered from how powerless he felt. He didn't want to admit it, not with how he scrunched his teeth, since when their prestige as 6 dragons and 1 phoenix was seen with mockery. Yin Bagong, leader of Pill King Hall, glanced at the two with calm. Don't sell yourself short. You are very much needed in the plan to get ourselves rid of that little monster. Shuddering, the two recovered their fighting spirit. Yeah, we just need a good plan and together we will waste him for good. Yin Fu grinned with hatred while the two were quiet. Yu Shan mocked him. We? Haha, what can you possibly do? Since when are you on the same level as us? Yin Bongi couldn't help but smile and Yin Bagong chuckled. Yin Fu was furious, but there was nothing he could do ever since his master, Yin Song, suffered an untimely demise. He lost all support in Pilking Hall. His alchemy was very much well regarded still, but his poison arts paled to the likes of Yin Bongi, so he was kicked to the curb. It only worked to fuel his hatred for Zhuo Fan to new heights. He lost everything because of him. Back on the stage, all those greedy and power-hungry clans finally woke up from the allure of fame. They started drawing back, further and further away. The referee landed on the corpse-filled stage and sighed at Zhuo Fan's insane power in the millennium that passed, and in all the esoteric debates that were held, never had the preliminaries to the final battle yielded so many casualties. Although sad, he had no sympathy whatsoever. Their greed got them their deaths. They bet their lives for power and fame, but lost in the end. They got their just desserts. In this qualification round for the final battle, Luo clan is victorious. The old guy shouted. They all heard it, but they didn't applaud. Those that laid at Zhuo Fan's feet were their brothers, part of the same clans. Why would anyone congratulate their enemy for killing their men? Did that even make sense? The only thing they felt when looking at the slaughter was pain. Zhuo Fan had stepped on their kin to enter the final battle. Why the hell would they applaud? Their hearts were only capable of unbridled hatred now. Not that Zhuo Fan cared. Every general climbed to his rank by stepping over a mountain of corpses. He had no need for eulogies and acclamations, only to be feared and obeyed. Old Pang, make a list with all the dead people's clans. I will pay a visit to each and every one of them. Zhuo Fan pointed at the corpse-filled stage. Old Pang got to work immediately. The relatives watched disgruntled, and some even had the courage to voice their indignation. Zhuo Fan, we don't need your hypocrisy. Don't think that some poor apology will be enough to atone for this slaughter. This earned the nods of the crowd. Apology? Atone? Quirking an eyebrow, Zhuo Fan felt he had heard the biggest joke ever. Ha ha ha, are you stupid or what? Since when did I start having regrets from killing? And you even went as far as thinking I'd apologize for squashing mere ants? Humph, let me be perfectly clear. When you went after me just now, wishing to get my head, I made sure to burn each one of you in my mind. I only want the list so I can pay a social visit and send you off with the rest of your clan and avoid any meddlesome folks in the future. Apologize? Atone? Unlike all those stories where the guy gets the girl, I will be sure to take her from right under your noses, morons. SSS. Gasps of fear resounded everywhere. Is this guy human? He slaughtered so many, and yet he won't rest until he has committed genocide? Gone was vengeance from everyone's minds, and instead they shivered in fear, worrying if they'd even have a future. Maybe moving into mountains and avoiding this demon archon is for the best. They all paled and forgot everything about revenge. Long Wuching snickered a praise. This brat sure is crafty. People seek revenge out of survival. But when that is at risk, all the hatred evaporates. They will most likely run home and cover all of this up, while leaving him a free path to the final battle. But this punk is a tyrant. He does not care for the people. Huangpu Tunyuan said. Long Wucheng shook his head. A tyrant is called that only in the moment of his fall. That is when others gather their nerves to call him that. If he keeps on winning, he will always be a righteous lord. His actions will have no impact whatsoever as well. As you can see from his choice today, he instilled a powerful image on all present here that getting on Luo clan's bad sides or on the Seven Houses' bad side made no difference. They'll end up dead either way. So who then will go against the Luo clan besides us? Gasping, Huangpu Tianyuan nodded. He is both ambitious and ruler material. We need to nip him in the bud. Huangpu Tianyuan stood up and left, seeing Regent Estate following their estate lord. The other 6 houses glanced one more time at Zhuo Fan before leaving as well. Staying any longer wouldn't net them any new information anyway. They had been introduced already to Zhuo Fan's other grand ability. Zhuo Fan sighed watching them go and went as Xuaning Xiang and Xie Tianyang. What a coincidence. You are also joining the esoteric debate? He failed to notice, however, Long Wucheng pausing and looking back at him with a wide grin. Estate Lord, I may have found this brat's weakness. Long Wucheng beamed at Huangpu Tianyuan. Huangpu Tianyuan raised an eyebrow. Sir Long found out the cause behind his vanishing acts. No, but it is akin to a spatial array. We can only use another array to seal this ability. Long Wucheng shook his head. If only Zhuo Fan was here to hear this, he'd have the shock of his life and praise Long Wucheng's cunning eyes. The divine eye of the void's first stage's weakness was indeed a sealed space, but how do we trap him in an array? He is just too insidious to fall for it. Huangpu Tianyuan frowned. Long Wucheng showed a vague smile. He is trickier than a fox, proving to be a hard opponent even for me. But even smart people act like an average person sometimes. Ho, Sir Long must have a plan ready then. Huangpu Tianyuan's eyes flashed. Long Wucheng nodded and smiled. Chapter 265, A Clan Dog's Burial. Chapter 265, A Clan Dog's Burial. Big Brother Zhuo, congratulations on getting into the final battle. Xuaningxiang couldn't stop the sweet smile from gracing her face. Shui Dingtian and Dong clan heads' hearts jumped from fear. Despite knowing fully well that Zhuo Fan had always been on their side, it was all because his power was the biggest threat. The sight of Zhuo Fan slaughtering thousands of people with intent alone gave them the feeling of ants looking at a giant. He could kill them on a whim if he found them displeasing in any way. Who wouldn't shake in their boots? They had a stiff smile on their faces, but their backs were soaked. They were like deer in the headlights. The tiger had them in his sights, and even if his appetite was abated, their fear was very much real. Zhuo Fan was oblivious to the fear he evoked. He who had become a dreaded existence just minutes ago was now smiling and nodding. The others nodded stiffly with an awkward smile. He puffed up his chest as he looked at Xuaningxiang. That was going to happen in due time anyways. It will hardly make a difference when garbage throws itself at me, even if they are in the tens of thousands. They all laughed dryly, but sweat poured out harder. His tone was haughty, but then the people thought about it from a different angle. Weren't Dong clan and Shui clan average clans as well? Garbage even? What would be their future? Wasn't he clearly mocking them in a convoluted way? It wasn't like the two could complain. Who told him to get strong enough to end their lives with a squeeze? Just smile and nod. Zhuo Fan was minding his own business, and with how often he was around big shots, he had no idea what waves his words were stirring in these two clan heads' minds. Xuaningxiang chuckled innocently, but then she frowned. Big Brother Zhuo, will you really end their clans? They just lost their relatives. On the stage, death is unavoidable, but going so far as to kill their whole clan afterwards is cruel. My clan was also on the verge of being wiped out, and I can relate. Please, see, could you just let them go? Well, Zhuo Fan frowned. Shui Dingtian noticed the predicament and chastised. Ninger, Steward Zhuo had his reason for doing it. You can't go and ruin his plans with your playfulness. Moreover, a true man never goes back on his word, even more so for Steward Zhuo, who is a hero, a great. Fine, no problem. Shui Dingtian didn't even get to teach his dear granddaughter about manners before Zhuo Fan just shrugged it off. I only meant to scare them anyway, to dispel any thoughts of going against me. Since I got what I wanted, there's no need to exterminate them. What do you take me for, a pitiless demon archon? Damn right. They all shook their heads but nodded in their minds. If you're no demon archon, what are the thousands of corpses doing on stage? Xuaningxiang was ecstatic. She felt for those pitiful clans deeply. Big Brother Zhuo doesn't need to go through a pointless slaughter. Zhuo Fan smiled and ruffled her hair. His savage face showed a rare hint of being content. Shui Dingtian was dumbstruck. He was looking to justify Zhuo Fan's cruel way all this time, and even reproached his granddaughter, and yet Zhuo Fan actually agreed with his granddaughter's pleading instead of giving credence to his reasoning. Where would his face go when speaking to his juniors now? But seeing that Zhuo Fan had eyes for Ninger alone, the old man sighed. My face is useless here. Better leave them alone, lest I become a third wheel. Hey, hands off. Don't you know mere acquaintances should never touch? Xie Tianyang burst into their corner of the world and flung Zhuo Fan's hand off Ninger's head. His jealousy was already burning strong, and seeing Zhuo Fan patting her was the last straw. Zhuo Fan saw right through him and sighed. Luo Yunchang took this moment to barge in as well. Yeah, how could any respectable woman be touched so casually? Then she said in apology, Ninger, please don't mind it. Steward Zhuo is a bore. I'll teach him some manners when we get back. It's all right. Young Miss Luo, don't blame Big Brother Zhuo. Xuening Xiang panicked. The gullible girl thought the young miss had the power to knock some sense into Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan frowned. Feeling ticked off for some odd reason, Steward Zhuo, here's the list. Captain Pang came with a paper. Zhuo Fan scrunched it up and threw it. Never mind. Captain Pang was stumped. What's with Steward Zhuo? Why is he so angry? Zhuo Fan had no clue why, but felt something amiss when Xie Tianyang flung his hand off the girl's head. It only got worse when Luo Yunchang showed up and her words stung him. He was now sulking and had no one to vent on. Suddenly, Zhuo Fan shouted, Wait! They all looked around to see where Zhuo Fan was looking. The Sun Clan's four were tiptoeing away. They were depressed. They worked so hard on their cultivation the last 5 years too. They thought with their strength, it was enough to at least take Zhuo Fan to his grave together, if not alone, but then they saw that monstrous Zhuo Fan turn into an abomination, killing with intent. The four of them had no chance whatsoever now. They would be finished in a blink. Oh, they still wanted revenge, of course, but that didn't mean becoming cannon fodder was in their plan. Only an idiot would jump right in when there was no chance of victory, so they chose to hightail out of there. Once Zhuo Fan figured out who they were, he no longer cared about them. But now he needed a good punching bag to blow off some steam, and they became the perfect targets. Zhuo Fan hardly ever got angry, especially the kind of dubious and inexplicable type of anger he was feeling right now. But now that he ran into these guys, he felt like the luckiest man alive. Staggering, the old man in front stiffly looked back as he used the same hoarse voice. You need something? Are you serious? You're asking me? After you had the gall to shout that you'll kill me? Zhuo Fan smiled in anger, walking towards them while spouting, Kai Rong, Kai shouting, and the Sun Clan's father and daughter, drop the dumb act. The four shuddered as they turned, yet they were too scared to even look him in the eye. Luo Yunchang's group jerked. They threw the four out of their clan, but who knew they'd end up looking like freaks of nature? Zhuo Fan cared not about their flimsy explanations and appeared right in front of the four as he taunted. Come then, weren't you gonna take revenge? I'll take you all on, and even give you 2 free moves. Their faces sank, no longer arrogant as before, but down in the dumps. What good will 2 moves do when you can kill us with intent alone? Don't feel like it? That only got Zhuo Fan's rage to tower higher and roared. Since you have no guts, kneel. See how I put you in your place. Regardless of how unwilling they were, their knees buckled to kneel or not to kneel. That was the question. Kneeling was shameful, but most likely a better outcome than ending up a smear on the ground at this savage's hands. Life is ever precious. Face matters not, especially with our creepy looks. One after the other, they bent their knees and fell on Zhuo Fan's feet. Luo Yunchang cried, how did you all end up like this? How else? The Hell Valley gave them some double-edged demonic method. A demonic emperor like Zhuo Fan saw through them in a flash as he cursed. Just look at yourselves. You're neither human nor monster, and yet you still want to live? Is this the awe-inspiring power you all sought? Especially you. Instead of staying as an elder in the Luo clan, you went ahead and threw your whole lot with the Sun clan. What a fool. Zhuo Fan sputtered into Kai Rong's flushed face. Zhuo Fan had hardly had enough and kept on flinging curses. Do you know why you look like this? It's what you deserve for being so adamant in becoming someone's lapdogs. Even as an elder of the Luo clan, you wanted to climb aboard Hell Valley. Now that you did, you're worth less than even a dog. Idiot, nitwit, dumbass, Nimrod. Zhuo Fan was on a roll. He was thorough in cursing out every bit of respect the four ever had. They couldn't even muster a retort. Luo Yunchang glanced at Zhuo Fan with complicated thoughts. Zhuo Fan, kill us or torture us. But stop with the insults. Kai Rong had had enough, it seemed. As Zhuo Fan squinted. Kill you? Why would I ever do that? The four were startled and echoed. You won't kill us? Of course not. I only care about 2 kinds of people. Friends, to hang out with, and enemies, to kill. Grinning, Zhuo Fan added, What do you suppose you are? Enemy? Kai Rong tested, shaking his head. Zhuo Fan snickered. Friends, perhaps? Kai Rong's heart thumped with hope. Was Zhuo Fan absolving them? Was he going to help them? Zhuo Fan was cracking up and mocked them even harder. Wrong? You are nothing to me. Just a bunch of clowns unworthy to kill, and even less to call friends. Beat it. Live on like the dogs you are, and have a taste of worldly pain as you reflect on your mistakes. I expect a good show on your part. With a grin, Zhuo Fan finally felt at peace, having cursed them and humiliated them so thoroughly. Chapter 266, Rage. Chapter 266, Rage. Shameless humiliation. The faces of the four were aflame, wishing they could go out fighting, and yet they kneeled there without a peep. Why were they here anyway? Did they come here only to get humiliated? Luo Yunchang sighed and glanced at Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan looked crazed in his enjoyment, shouting, "Why are you still here? Get lost already." Kai Rong's group shook their heads and left, but not before they heard Zhuo Fan sinking one last insult. Do it like dogs. What are you standing around for when you're not even humans? Shuddering, the four bit their lips fiercely. Zhuo Fan was towering over them with his mighty air and arrogance, yet all they could do was suffer. He was just that strong. Kai Rong wept as he crawled away with the other three. Their image in the evening sun struck the picture of degradation, of stray dogs begging for mercy. Zhuo Fan barked on, trying to dispel that queer rage completely. People watched Zhuo Fan being thorough and humiliating these four, leaving them without a shred of dignity. The more they saw, the greater their fear of Zhuo Fan became. They said a warrior could be killed but not shamed. And yet when these clan heads watched such naked display of abuse and mockery, they felt it was even worse than having their entire clan wiped out, because visiting the underworld may be cruel and sad, but all clansmen would meet again in the afterlife, while the shamed would have to live on with this disgrace, in this nightmare built by harsh and cruel words, a fate worse than death. While Zhuo Fan was raining curses, his every word stung Shui and Dong clan like daggers. Are we dogs or warriors? The Luo clan had Zhuo Fan as their pillar that even the seven houses regarded with importance, and thus they could maintain their integrity. While to the average clan in this word, not being dogs would end up becoming their destruction. How could one have integrity when his entire existence was threatened? Oftentimes they never wished to rise above their station, simply to survive. That was why they had integrity on the surface, while acting like dogs through their actions. Just that these two clans were lucky enough to get a good master. Drifting Flowers edifices and Sword Marquis abode. Unlike how the cruel Hell Valley treated their vassals, so they may be dogs, but could venture in calling themselves dogs with pedigree. Taking deep breaths, Shui clan head and Dong clan head glanced at each other, then shook their heads. Zhuo Fan and Luo clan were worlds apart from them. Steward Zhuo, calm down. Why are you so angry? It's not worth stressing yourself over this. Captain Pang came to Zhuo Fan with a smile. Zhuo Fan shrugged, his face calm. I'm fine. I am not one to get angry over the likes of them. They are not worth it. I only abused them since it worked to show off my pretentious style. Captain Pang reeled and laughed dryly. What a reason to curse someone. How freakish. Only Luo Yunchang bit her lip watching Zhuo Fan. Oh, sorry everyone. There are matters that I need to deal with. I shall take my leave. Zhuo Fan cupped his hands and left with Luo Yunchang and company. The others replied in kind. Only Dong Xiaowan watched him grumbling. He never even looked at me. Dong clan head patted her shoulder and shook his head. Wanner, you and him are of different worlds. It's impossible. Dong Xiaowan closed her teary eyes. In Luo clan's residence, the ever-quiet Luo Yunchang spoke up. Zhuo Fan, Miss Ninger and you. What's wrong? Zhuo Fan asked. Puzzled Luo Yunchang looked at him long, then shook her head. Nothing? Zhuo Fan blinked obliviously. Luo clan stayed in a small courtyard in Dragon Cloud City. After coming here, Zhuo Fan called for Lei Yuntian and the 20 profound heaven fakes, with Steward Zhuo as our bulwark. We will always achieve absolute victory. Lei Yuntian cupped his hands and laughed. Zhuo Fan merely barked at the fakers. Elder Lei, cane these things 100 times each. Personally, Lei Yuntian was startled. Why is Steward Zhuo angry? Did he lose? No way. Whenever Zhuo Fan entered the fray, he only came out winning. Not to mention this was an easy matter. The 20 fakers were stumped as well. What did we do? They've been well behaved as of late. We never showed off either. Zhuo Fan snorted. You think I forgot about you since I didn't pay you any attention last couple of days? Luo clan was attacked yesterday, and even our allies and outsiders came out with heavy wounds trying to protect our masters. While you just picked a corner to let this play out. You think you'll get out of this so easily? But they were 6 dragons and 1 phoenix. We have no hope of defeating them. Would have only died for nothing. One of the 20 said with fierce squinting. Zhuo Fan's flick sent him flying as he roared. You call that a reason? When you were Imperial Guards, did you run away as well? You are now the Luo clan's guards, and the least you could do is be our shields. We are never to die before all of you. Didn't Elder Lei and Captain Peng act just the same? You don't have the Luo clan's well-being as your priority and must be punished. Lei Yuntian nodded after a pause. He was right, and these guys had to be put in their place, Elder Lei. What are you standing around for? Do it. Zhuo Fan barked. The 20 fakers jolted in fear. Lei Yuntian was about to execute the order when he froze. Wait, 100 canes per faker? Won't my old body give out after 2,000 hits? Steward Zhuo, are you punishing them or taking it out on me? But then again, only he was the best person suited for the job, since if anyone else did it, it wouldn't count as punishment. But 2,000 canes. Lei Yuntian looked at Luo Yunchang bitter. Yunchang, what happened today? Why is Steward Zhuo so irritated? Luo Yunchang shook her head. Never mind, Uncle Lei. Just give them 20 canes each, but a bit harder. They all eased a breath in relief. The fakers rejoiced, as did Lei Yuntian. They were blessed to have this young Miss above Demon Archon Zhuo. 2,000 canes turning into 400 was far more manageable. Back in his room, Zhuo Fan sat down and emptied the teacup at the side in one gulp and sighed. He was finally calm. Luo Yunchang and Captain Peng entered, to which Zhuo Fan said, How is Elderly and the others? They should be close. For Dragon Cloud City to keep the peace, no house was allowed to bring in Radiant Stage experts. So Zhuo Fan guessed Li Jingtian's group had to be waiting on the outskirts of town. Captain Peng shook his head. Young Miss Lei and Elder Yin hadn't come since you had plans for them. Correct. I indeed told them to move around this time. And the others? Zhuo Fan nodded. Captain Peng muttered. The others didn't as well? Why? Zhuo Fan finally had the time to mind Luo clan's situation and was stunned by what he heard. It was my idea. Luo Yunchang said, Dragon Cloud City doesn't allow Radiant Stage experts in, and you said not to expose our cards too soon. So I. Fool. Zhuo Fan snapped and raged again. The 7 houses didn't bring Radiant Stage experts because of their power, while you have none. If you and Yunhai die here, the Luo clan is finished. What would be the point of all my plans and my efforts to help the clan? To throw it all away in the end? Luo Yunchang bit her lip, and tears threatened to fall down her cheeks. But instead of succumbing to them, she snapped back. Yes, I am not so astute and failed to see the big picture. And you? After being gone for 5 years, you instantly scream at anyone you find an eyesore. It'd have been better if you hadn't bothered coming. Luo Yunchang slammed the door as she left. Captain Peng was awkward. Steward Zhuo, please don't take it to heart. She didn't mean it. She missed you day and night. Fine, I know. This isn't the first time she has acted like this anyway. Zhuo Fan sighed and squinted. Old Peng, send a messaging jade slip for Elderly to provide us support. I have a feeling we will have a falling out with Regent Estate. Captain Peng nodded. Zhuo Fan was soon left alone with his thoughts. He closed his eyes as he considered he knew something was off about him today. Irritated by everything and lashing out at anyone. He was this close to trading blows too. This couldn't go on. If anger got the best of him, he would force his way forward, which was not a good thing. He had to control himself at all costs. Or there was a high chance he would do something he would regret. But why was he so ticked off all of a sudden? Taking a deep breath and closing his eyes, he calmed down and started cultivating. Suddenly, a shout echoed and Zhuo Fan clutched his right eye as he fell to the ground soaked. The golden ring in his eye flashed on and off as a faint second golden ring appeared. Am I about to achieve Divine Eye of the Void's second stage? Zhuo Fan was excited. Chapter 267, Cold-Blooded. Chapter 267, Cold-Blooded. Russell. With a few flicks of his arms, Zhuo Fan set up a defensive array and sat cross-legged, calmed his mind and readied himself to advance. He felt his right eye burning red-hot as the golden ring flashed. Zhuo Fan took a deep breath and focused his entire soul power on his right eye. The divine eye of the void had an intrinsic connection with one's soul. Each advancement would tax one's soul greatly. 3 days passed within a blink in this manner, with Zhuo Fan focused on his task and no one disturbing him either. However, the morning of the 4th day, Zhuo Fan opened his eyes with a sigh. It still failed. Is it because my soul is weak, or because of my restless state of mind? Squinting, Zhuo Fan began regretting. It was such a rare chance to get stronger, and he had thoroughly wasted it. Recalling his impatience 4 days ago, Zhuo Fan shook his head. Why couldn't I be calm? I need to temper my heart and remove all distractions. Zhuo Fan took a deep breath and closed his eyes. The next time he opened them, they were crystal clear with no ripples across them. Zhuo Fan stood up, undid the array, and walked out. He was met with Luo Yunchang and company. One look was enough to tell him something was up. What's wrong? Zhuo Fan eyed them. Luo Yunchang muttered. Pavilion Lord Long has sent word that they want to discuss the final battle among the 7 houses with you. But you were cultivating these past days and… All right, I got it. Zhuo Fan interrupted her and walked away without even looking at them. Like a lone wolf, Luo Yunchang looked at his back for a long while and then said, Captain Peng, did you also notice that he has changed? Captain Peng swallowed. Steward Zhuo didn't change. He has only returned to how he was 8 years ago. He looks the same as back then in Misty Forest. Luo Yunchang watched the prideful figure with an aching heart. Is he leaving again? A demonic cultivator only ever cared about themselves. With Zhuo Fan having met so many people over the years, each encounter had a faint influence, each tainting his heart and ultimately rattling his usually peaceful state of mind. He was of the belief that this was the sole reason for his failure to advance Divine Eye of the Void to the 2nd stage. After careful consideration, he had cast out every influence. Along with the ever-growing emotions, the strong had no need for dead weights. Surveying the white clouds floating about the blue sky, Zhuo Fan's eyes were crystal clear. So much so that they looked dead. So much better. Sighing, Zhuo Fan walked with purpose to a courtyard 10 times larger than the Luo clans. This place had high-ranking people watching the gate. Brother, the killing with intent you used has opened my eyes. Long Zhuo laughed. Zhuo Fan nodded unaffected. Long time no see, Brother Zhuo. Long Zhuo paused for a second. Why is brother so cold today? Darling, you were so cool. Xiao Dandan skipped over at some point with a rosy face. Peony Overseer held her face and Zhuo Fan glanced at her and said, Lass, do that again and I'll make sure it will be your last. Reeling, Xiao Dandan watched him like he was some stranger. She had gotten used to Zhuo Fan talking like that, but this time she could see the bloodthirst glinting in his eyes. She was certain that if she opened her mouth at this instant, Zhuo Fan would rip it off. Peony Overseer saw her disciple being picked on and glared. But before she could spring in defense, Zhuo Fan's cold, emotionless eyes snapped at her. And you? Deal with your disciple before she meets with misfortune. When that time comes, you'll only have yourself to blame for not educating her properly. Zhuo Fan then walked inside without sparing the women a look. Zhuo Fan had long lost his joking mood and was ready to follow up on his threats. What's wrong with this kid? He's like another person. While those familiar with Zhuo Fan were stifled, the rest were even more afraid of earning his ire. Zhuo Fan was surrounded by a constant air of savagery, as if he was standing above all. No one dared to stand closer than 3 meters around this mighty lord. His faraway look and his power let them know that the best he ever felt was when he was alone. This Zhuo Fan left them all cold and shaken inside. Rumble. Zhuo Fan walked in through the heavy door, where the 3 clans sat around a round table. They all smiled at his coming. Chu Qingqing especially. He nodded and smiled in reply, but ignored Chu Qingqing as he took a chair. Steward Zhuo, the qualification round has concluded. Because of your involvement, a large number of clans were eliminated. This makes the final battle planned a month later be moved 2 days from now. Long Yifi explained. Zhuo Fan nodded. So the reason you wanted to see me is, seeing how the Luo clan has never participated in the final battle of the 7 houses before, there are some things you have yet to learn. Long Yifi smiled. Actually, the final battle is held in a different area each time and rules change accordingly. What remains the same is how cruel and brutal it is. So it isn't held in Dragon Cloud City? Hasn't it been a tradition for esoteric debate to be held here for the past 1,000 years? Zhuo raised an eyebrow. Long Yifi shook his head. This is the imperial family's scheme. Only by constantly changing the environment could they see the true power of the 7 houses. And with how powerful the disciples from the 7 houses are, so too will the terrain become of a much greater difficulty. This time it is expected to be the worst so far. Zhuo squinted. Still out of the loop, grandmother giggled. Steward Zhuo needn't be baffled. The Dragon Cloud City has a large 8th grade teleportation array to send us anywhere within the Tianyu Empire. And that is where the final battle will be held. This is also to prevent anyone from setting an ambush. Zhuo nodded. Imperial family thought of everything. But using such a large teleportation array only for esoteric debate is such a waste. Zhuo shook his head. In the end, if the imperial family wanted to waste their coffers, how is that his problem? He was better off focusing on the final battle. That was the whole reason why they were gathered here. Xiaofeng smiled. Steward Zhuo, your skills have opened our eyes. But we still wish to ask, how confident are you in facing Huangpu Qingtian? Squinting, Zhuo snickered. None whatsoever. But you can rest easy knowing that I can hold him down. With how one of the other 3 is a cripple, can you handle the remaining 2? With Steward Zhuo holding off that monster, the other 2.5 men will be easily taken care of. The 7 houses ranking will be in upheaval. Xiaofeng anticipated with joy. The others laughed with him. They discussed further details, then adjourned. Zhuo walked to the door when a graceful figure blocked his view. Zhuo eyed Chu Qingcheng. You need something? Zhuo said flatly. Chu Qingcheng watched the impassive Zhuo in anger. Zhuo, I want an answer. Did you have no reason to stay in Drifting Flower City longer? None. Zhuo was resolute. I told you. I only did it out of self-interest. Since I had achieved my goal and got what I came for, I had no reason to stay. Chu Qingcheng gnashed her teeth and clenched her fists. What about the days spent in that shack? You call playing house being real? Mocking, Zhuo sneered. Without sacrificing a few days of my youth, you would have never given up Bodhi Jade sap so willingly. Pa! Chu Qingcheng slapped him before he could finish grinning. Zhuo giggled despite her raging eyes. Silly girl. You're so easily duped that I worry how Drifting Flowers edifices will survive after grandmother's gone. Why not give it to me? Bastard. You are dead inside. Chu Qingcheng glared. Her fingers dug into her palm, drawing blood, trailing her flawless skin, smirking. Zhuo no longer looked at her as he left, but his mockery stung nonetheless. Ha ha ha. I am and always will be a demonic cultivator. Even if that time made me feel anything. So what? You think you can hook me in? With heart-wrenching pain, Chu Qingcheng watched him leave with a face filled with tears. Zhuo paused but never turned around. His face forever cold as he walked away alone. Peony overseer and the rest rushed over. Seeing Chu Qingcheng's state and starting cursing Zhuo hardly cared about the pesky cawing. Leaving with a cold smile on his face, he had just left the courtyard and soon noticed some blood seeping from his mouth. He wiped it off unfeeling and mechanically. To become a demonic emperor, he had to be cold-blooded and to never allow a trace of emotion to get a hold of him ever again. Chapter 268, Prologue of the Final Battle. Chapter 268, Prologue of the Final Battle. Dragon Cloud City's westernmost side had a towering mountain going by the name of Transfer Peak. Right on top of this huge hunk of rock laid a grand 8th grade teleportation array. Some said that even before Tianyu Empire came to be, the Yuan imperial family used this precise array to send its troops to every corner of the empire, but as the chaos made way to peace, it didn't see much use, serving now just as a means to blow off the 7 houses' ever-accumulating rancor. Through the esoteric debate at this particular moment, hundreds of clans were gathering on it en masse. They all looked at the array with nervousness, excitement, and awe. Anyone would be excited when it came to joining the final battle, knowing their rise was just around the corner, as was their destruction. And they were nervous as well at having qualified for this final battle. Besides the first-rate clans still holding their ranks, the third- and second-rate clans went through a shuffling. Few were those that rose to become first-rate. With new and incredible power, the final battle, however, wasn't as cushy as the qualification round. Not that the entry fights were ever easy to begin with, but when taking the final battle into account, its cruelty was way worse than the qualification battles. Thus, it was easy to imagine how nervous these clans were feeling that went farther for a particular underdog, the Luo clan of Windgaze City. With soaring demonic dragon Zhuo on par with 6 dragons and 1 phoenix as vanguard, was there anyone capable of pushing them back? What was on the clan's minds, however, was whose vassal were they? For whose sake were they fighting for? The worry hit many hard. Look, the Luo clan. A shout snapped hundreds of heads in Luo Yunchang's direction as she led the Luo clan alongside Zhuo finally healed. Luo Yunhai could now show his heroic aura and thirst for battle. A youth still, yet the 5th tiger of Tianyu would never just be another face in the crowd. Their proceedings instilled a certain heavy air around the onlookers. The Luo clan was a veritable wolf strutting through a sheep herd. It was so bad that the people made a 10-meter wide space for them. Everyone feared getting close to this savage beast, and yet, there were always exceptions. Big Brother Zhuo, you're all here. Xuaningxiang skipped over hyped and waving. The Shui and Dong clans behind her earned not few raised eyebrows. What was their connection for these 2 clans to get so close with this wolf? But the appearance of Sword Marquis Abode's second young master, Xie Tianyang, making his way there as well, cleared all doubts. So they're allies. There was no shortage of rumors flying about the Luo clan, especially about its supporters. It so happened that Sword Marquis Abode was among these rumors, and today only validated it. This only worked to make the people even more envious of this upstart clan. So this is why the Luo clan jumped from 3rd to 1st rate and had a free path to the final battle. They have a house behind them. What kind of sheer dumb and rotten luck had they stumbled upon to have a house treat them so? Thinking of how mountains of wealth were literally flung at this 3rd-rate clan to reach such a position. If it were us in their stead, we'd have reached the moon by now. People always looked at the surface of things, unaware that the Luo clan of today wasn't because of the support of some houses. And it was what they were today that had caught the 7 houses' attention. It was painfully obvious to see who here was a dog or a man. Xuaningxiang gasped as she reached them with a sweet and innocent smile. Zhuo mouth quirked and he ruffled her hair. What are you doing here? Haven't you always hated watching people die? Luo Yunchang retorted as she watched him longingly. It was her first time in days that she caught Zhuo show a carefree smile. But why wasn't it directed at her? Luo Yunchang sighed, feeling the ache deep within. It's fine, Big Brother Zhuo. Shui clan is joining as well, and I'll be going too. Xuaningxiang giggled, brandishing her cute little fists to show her battle spirit. Zhuo shouted anxiously, You can't, Ninger. This is a vicious battle, not a game. A girl like you has no place on the battlefield. I don't care, because I know Big Brother Zhuo will be there to save me whenever I'm in danger. Xuaningxiang blinked her bright eyes, watching Zhuo eagerly. She then looked at the thunder ring. Whenever I'm in peril, the thunder ring will flicker and you'll appear. Isn't that right? Zhuo squinted, then nodded in defeat. Fine. I'll look after you. You don't have to worry about that. You have Huangpu Qingtian to deal with. Ninger will be in my care. Xie Tianyang stormed next to Xuaningxiang and held her shoulder, making a claim on her. Shui Dingtian only now arrived and smiled awkwardly. I can't stop her. This girl is too stubborn. But don't worry, she will be in her brother's and young master Xie's care, so she won't be in any trouble. On cue, Shui Lin and Shui Gang cupped their hands, startled. Zhuo gave them a once-over and nodded, despite the sense of loss taking hold on his heart. He felt that he and Ninger were only growing apart. With mountains rising between them, they could never return to the blissful times they shared in All Beast Mountain Range. This is for the best. He wanted to numb his heart, and severing those memories of their past encounters was for the best. With a deep breath, Zhuo regained inner peace, like a stone-cold killer. He said to Xie Tianyang, Take good care of her and make sure nothing happens. It goes without saying. Xie Tianyang nodded. Zhuo, I'm coming as well. Luo Yunchang spoke up. Zhuo raised an eyebrow. Why? Didn't I say I and Yunhai and 10 guards are enough? Why do you want to come all of a sudden? How? No reason. You'll protect me, so it'll be fine. Luo Yunchang batted her eyes, shaking his head. Zhuo said, No, Too dangerous. Are you worried about me? That's not it. Zhuo Fan scratched his nose. I'll be in danger if I have to constantly look after you. The others chuckled. Luo Yunchang glared as she kicked his shin. You make me a dead weight while you said you'd protect Ninga? What am I then? Zhuo Fan let her vent on his leg, stiffened for a second as his face went cold. Luo Yunchang kicked him once, but the second kick didn't come. For her heart grew forlorn the more she looked at Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan had closed off his heart under lock and key. He was like a prideful hero, wishing to bear everything alone. The 7 houses are here. The shout got everyone's attention. With Regent Estate in the lead, the 7 houses strutted forth. Chu Qingcheng was there as well. She glanced at Zhuo Fan, only to see his face, ever cold and impassive, which made her clench her fists. Grandmother was right. He is dead inside, not worth any woman's attention. Scoffing, she ignored him and walked behind grandmother with a frosty gaze. Marshal Dugu has arrived. Dugu Zhantian brought 10,000 soldiers to surround this area. He did it as a safety measure to instill order, but the thick scent of blood and steel shuddered the nerves of every disciple here. They who had only known life in the clan laughing. Dugu Zhantian stopped before Zhuo Fan and patted his shoulder. Ha ha ha, kid. I was ready to come out and save you that day, but you have radiant stage abilities already. You hid them so well that you even had me worried. Marshal was there as well? Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow. Dugu Zhantian nodded with a smile. How could I not? Just the day before Huangpu Qingtian showed off his intent. I had to watch over you. Who knew? Who friggin' knew? You are both made of the same cloth. Monsters the lot of you. I was worried for nothing. Ha ha ha. Laughing on, Dugu Zhantian turned to Luo Yunhai and gave him some warnings before leaving. The 4 tigers of Tianyu offered their encouragement as they left as well. Reaching the forefront, Dugu Zhantian surveyed the crowd of clans. Please step before the array. The esoteric debate's final battle will begin shortly. Starting with Regent Estate, the 7 houses took the first line in order of the previous esoteric debates. Ranking next were the clans, never even entertaining the thought of cutting ahead. The clans either stood behind their master or the house they wished to become a vassal of. Obviously, Regent Estate had the numerical advantage, but typical of Regent Estate, that didn't mean these clans were going to be accepted. While other clans with modicum of strength settled for standing behind other houses they wished to follow, Dong clan went behind Drifting Flowers edifices, and Shui clan behind Sword Marquis abode. Zhuo Fan glanced at Luo Yunhai and nodded. Luo Yunhai strutted under the shocked gaze of the people right abreast the 7 houses, next to Drifting Flowers edifices. The rest of the clan's members puffed up their chests right behind him. The shock was understandable. The crowd now realized that the Luo clan was no one's dog, but stood on their own. But this was a direct challenge to the 7 houses' authority. Would they be able to handle it? Chapter 269, The Most Enticing Reward. Chapter 269, The Most Enticing Reward. The 7 houses turned their heads, but the calm look on their faces said it all. They were expecting this. That only fueled the crowd's uproar. The 7 houses are accepting the Luo clan's rise? But how could they allow anyone to stand at their level? The Luo clan did have soaring demonic dragon Zhuo Fan, that insane monster, but the rest of the clan was a whole another matter entirely. Huangpu Tianyuan snickered at the narrow-minded clans around him. Were they so blind to see it coming ever since Zhuo Fan started having a field day with the 7 houses' elders? So even though Luo clan was overstepping its bounds, per usual, none of the houses found it worthy of a reaction. Oh, your ambition for power and status sure is commendable. Ha ha ha. In the end you still abided by his wishes and showed up. An aged voice echoed. The crowd turned around in shock. They found 3 old men coming over. The leader being the head of 4 pillars, Prime Minister Zhuge Changfeng, flanked by his young elders. Even from afar, the people could sense the hidden and thick power they exuded, enough to crush this entire area. Why is this geezer here? Dugu Zhantian held his beard with a stern face. Huangpu Tianyuan's side was put off by the presence of Tianyu's number 1 mind. This old bean had extended Yu Wanshan and company a hand in wrestling out of the emperor's grip one time, but it was a known fact that no one could truly unravel the real reason behind his kindness. His mind was unreadable. Yesterday's friend could very well turn into today's enemy. But the worst was the constant anxiety one was in not knowing when that would happen. Long Wuchang eyed the hunched figure, then shook his head and sighed. Not even he could read the old man hailed as unwanted contriver. With everyone an open book before his scrutiny, he had no confidence when it came to reading Zhuge Changfeng. Zhuge Changfeng sported a vague smile as he walked next to Zhuo Fan. Have you thought it through? Or are you going to be swept away by the storm? Gasps of shock resounded everywhere. What is the Luo clan and Zhuge Changfeng's connection? They now understood why Luo clan had risen to challenge the 7 houses. Blast it. With 2 pillars behind you, the young master under a marshal and the prime minister cheering you on, not even the 7 houses would dare slight such a clan. So this is Luo clan's true backing. People's faces twitched and their hearts sank. Why does this never happen to me? Just what tricks did this Luo clan pull to grab hold of 2 pillars? Huangpu Tianyuan's side was also stunned. They never saw it coming. Zhuge Changfeng came for Zhuo Fan. With even Zhuge Changfeng helping them, they had no chance to finish off the Luo clan. Ever. Huangpu Tianyuan's face sank as his knuckles went white. Leng Wuchang dismissed his worries. Estate Lord, Zhuge Changfeng is different from Du Gazhantian, a pragmatic. Even if he intended to get close to Luo clan, it will only be because of Zhuo Fan's skills. Once Zhuo Fan is out of the picture, they will fall like a ton of bricks. It only makes this time's esoteric debate of paramount importance to stomp that punk dead. Huangpu Tianyuan's eyes flashed with bloodthirst. Long Wuchang nodded, turning to the only one who could achieve this feat, heaven-shaking Dragon Lord Huangpu Qingtian. The man in question was oblivious to their conversation. His eyes showed he was raring to go turn the entire battlefield upside down. Perfect. Leng Wuchang chuckled, finding everyone dancing his tune. Going back to Zhuo Fan, the man smiled. Prime Minister, how do you know if the Luo clan isn't in the eye of the storm already? Zhuge Changfeng raised an eyebrow. I trust your judgment. It's fine as long as you aren't forced into it. I am eager to see the day Steward Zhuo achieves his ambitions. Humph, as if. The crowd cursed and sighed as well. Since when was Zhuge Changfeng that bored to come here without rhyme or reason? The game was most definitely afoot. The old fox's schemes aside, Du Gazhantian had no time to mind him. His orders were to make sure esoteric debate ran smoothly, recalling the Emperor's explicit and repeated warnings. A caution the Emperor never showed before led this old general to believe the esoteric debate of today had national ramifications. Du Gazhantian barked, by His Majesty's grace, the esoteric debate will allow clansmen below the age of 30 to participate. No one older is allowed entry, or I will personally cut them down. The rules will be explained to you shortly by one of Divine Dragons, Jade Flute Divine Sword Feng Qiubai. Whoosh! A whistle of white clothes signified the entrance of an old man holding a jade flute and exuding a dominating air. Feng Qiubai rustle. A flick of his hand sent 5 jades taller than 2 people around the teleportation array. Looking at it, the people saw the stone form 5 huge gates, 8th Great Army transfer, national elemental stones. Looking at the red, yellow, green, blue, and brown stones, Zhuge Changfeng and the 7 houses took a step back in shock. Feng Qiubai nodded. Correct. This is indeed the array passed down by imperial ancestors. Feng Qiubai then made a sign and the stones shone, each reflecting a beautiful scenery of beasts and birds. A 3rd-level spiritual beast soon passed by and watched the crowd curiously. Then came a 4th-level spiritual beast and howled, but was left to claw away at an invisible barrier. Unable to reach them, Feng Qiubai's voice roused them from the shock. I will now present you all with the rules for this esoteric debate. As you have seen for yourselves, the center and the stone arrays are both unidirectional. You will shortly stand in the center array, and I will then send you to the location of the final battle. But to return, the only way is through the national elemental stones. The crowd looked puzzled. Feng Qiubai continued. The 5 national elemental stones are a one-way door, but from the final battle location to here. To activate it, you will need to find not only these stones, but also their key. However, each array has a yin and yang key that must be joined to return, and the order of your arrival will mark your ranking. Simple enough. Huangpu Qingtian smiled. The others nodded, finding it pretty straightforward. It all came down to finding some keys, and the way back. The greatest danger was merely deadly battles between clans, Nothing of importance. Feng Qiubai raised an eyebrow and snickered. Simple is it? You won't be saying that after you find out the location. The clans stared at him distraught. Beast King Mountain. Feng Qiubai mocked SSS. Gasps echoed around, and some even felt their knees shaking. Beast King Mountain wasn't as deadly as all Beast Mountain range, but high-level spiritual beasts were nevertheless present. There were many 5th and 6th level spiritual beast kings roaming, hence the name Beast King Mountain. Even profound heaven and radiant stage experts would have a hard time scouring that place for anything. Not to mention the plenty of bone-tempering cultivators among the clans. There was no need to even fight when the spiritual beasts would kill them off before they could even meet. The hearts of everyone sank in despair. Why was this time's battle so cruel and deadly? Only 6 dragons, 1 phoenix, and Zhuo Fan were the picture of calmness. Glancing at these monsters left them stomping in indignation. Was this place chosen with these freaks in mind? If you take away the 8 monsters, you'd only have average people. This is ridiculous. Feng Qiubai grinned at their silent protest. But of course, no danger comes unwarranted. It is slightly dangerous this time around, but the reward is up to the risk. These are 5 8th grade pills, brimming sacred pill. It will be up to each one of you to earn it. Say what? Zhuo Fan and Huangpu Qingtian were both affected. The brimming sacred pill was of most value to a radiant stage expert or those on the brink. Across the whole of Tianyu, this pill was the rarest of all. Not even the 7 houses had one. Huangpu Qingtian, Huangpu Tianyuan, and other peak profound heaven experts needed just one little pill, and they would jump right into being a radiant stage expert with no strings attached. While to a radiant stage expert, it would boost their soul many times over. Worth it? Huangpu Tianyuan was moved as he looked at his son. He had been stuck at peak profound heaven stage for decades. This chance was God-sent, and yet Huangpu Qingtian's face left him cold. God damn it. If this brat gets it, he'll eat it on the spot. Zhuge Changfeng frowned as he twirled his mustache. The old man has come out swinging. He is eager to begin his plan. While the 2nd and 3rd rate clans looked on in forlorn depression, this is clearly meant for those monsters. Where among us do you see a radiant stage or peak profound heaven expert? Taking it will only make us pop like fireworks. It came with great fear and trepidation as to how cruel this event would be for them. This stage was practically designed to be the death of them. They were nothing more than cannon fodder. But to climb aboard a house, a timely help would get the attention they desperately yearned. Even if they were cannon fodder, they'd still risk it. Chapter 270, Beast King Mountain. Chapter 270, Beast King Mountain. All right, youngsters. Time to go. Feng Qiubai made a hand sign and pointed at the dark mass in the center of the array in a dazzling fashion. A pillar of light sprung up straight to the sky and forced people to squint. Every clan's younger generation rubbed their eyes and their mouths twitched. But no matter how unwilling, they all walked on. Go. Go. Just go and die. They all cursed. No matter how they thought about it, Feng Qiubai's cheering felt more like a blatant wish for an untimely death, not like they had a choice in the matter. So on they went, for their clan's honor and for their future. Whoosh! People sank into the pillar of light one after another. Gone for good. Zhuo Fan glanced at the array and said to Luo Yunhai's group, "The teleportation array is random and will split us up. No matter what happens, you are to search for each other first and foremost." "Yes, Steward Zhuo." The 10 young guards nodded, and Luo Yunhai spoke gravely. "Don't worry, Brother Zhuo. My godfather put me through some scouting lessons, and I'll quickly find you." Grinning, Zhuo Fan said, "It was a good thing after all, leaving you in Marshall's care all those years. I can rest easy now." Luo Yunhai's eyes shined with resolve. "Let's go." Zhuo Fan took his group through the light pillar. Luo Yunchang sighed, looked from afar, and prayed for their safety. "Zhuo Fan, I will make you pay for killing my master." A sudden roar caught Zhuo Fan's attention. Yin Fu watched him filled with revenge and hatred. More obvious now that the white light separated them. Zhuo Fan was stunned. "Damn, forgot about that twerp. This guy is a coward anyway. He only waited for me to get in the array before barking. Ah, what a chicken." Zhuo Fan shook his head and sighed. He was gone. Yin Fu, however, was over the moon. He actually managed to provoke the monster. Yin Bongi walked over and mocked, "Spineless brat, try to refrain from being so despicable next time." The other houses also snickered. Waiting for your enemy to be unable to do anything to you. If that isn't cowardice, what is? You've gone long on the path of a gutless rat. As they looked at him in ridicule, the rest of the 7 houses entered the pillar of light as well. Yin Fu gnashed his teeth. His face flushed as he followed them. The bustling place from moments ago soon turned quiet. Feng Qiubai found all participants gone and closed the array with another hand sign. Yet beyond his perception, 2 shadowy figures slipped past just as he finished. Whoosh! The towering light pillar died, and Zhuo Fan found himself in the heart of a forest. He didn't even get to make sense of his surroundings as a roar grated his ears with a rancid smell and whistling wind signaling its arrival. A dozens of meter-tall bear rose behind him. With his rock-splitting paw, it smashed right for him. Even a 9th layer of bone-tempering cultivator would be hard-pressed to face such power. Snapping his head back, Zhuo Fan frowned. 4th level spiritual beast, mountain-crushing bear? The giant paw was right in his face. Yet all Zhuo Fan did was have his eye flash azure. The fierce bear paw came to a grinding halt, and the giant bear was scared out of his mind as he ran with all his power. Zhuo Fan watched the disappearing humongous bear with a snicker. The azure flame's use isn't limited to all Beast Mountain range. All spiritual beasts are under its influence. This would make the trip to Beast King Mountain a breeze. While others had to painstakingly pay attention to any high-level spiritual beasts on the prowl, he was out on an evening stroll. The Beast King Mountain was his home turf. On the other hand, it was a nightmare for the rest of those poor suckers, particularly those that had yet to enter the profound heaven stage. Since he was welcomed by a 4th-level spiritual beast, the others ought to be receiving more or less the same honor, no? I have to find Yunhai fast. Frowning, Zhuo Fan's wings unfolded, and he took to the skies. Some flying spiritual beasts shot straight for him, but a flash of azure flame from Zhuo Fan's eyes cut their intent clean off. Whoosh! Flashes of white dazzled the sky for the better part of the next hour, yet Zhuo Fan never met another person. He sighed at how ridiculously vast the Beast King Mountain was. If he didn't find the others fast, who knew what might happen? Save me! A charming voice entered his ears. Zhuo Fan paused. With how vicious the Beast King Mountain is, no normal person would be stupid enough to come here. This person has to be a contender. Among the many clans that joined, Drifting Flowers Edifices had the most girls. Should I or should I not? Zhuo Fan mulled it over for a second before flying down. I guess it won't be nice to watch your own ally bite the dust without helping. Since I won't find Yunhai anytime soon, I better lend a helping hand. Zhuo Fan sent out a soul ripple and locked onto the source of the sound. In an instant, he saw a huge lake in the distance, wide enough that it was impossible to see the other shore. The place was verdant and lush, framed perfectly by the sun's rays. But the water of the lake started to roil and billow as huge waves rose all over the place. A charming girl slammed into the water in great distress. Across from her was a 1/4-mile-long scarlet venomous serpent. Its eerie pair of sharp eyes looked at the panicking girl with hunger. 6th level spiritual beast, overpowering flood dragon. Zhuo Fan squinted in shock. That was no ordinary snake, but a water serpent descended from the mighty flood dragon. Such a spiritual beast was a natural king. It was a peak existence even among 6th level spiritual beasts. Not even a common 7th level spiritual beast could contend with it. Zhuo Fan gasped in awe at the Beast King Mountain hiding such a monster. Even more so to the bad luck this Missy had in landing not just in its turf, but its home waters. In fact, she popped right in its goddamned open maw. It couldn't get any worse than that. SSS. Flicking its red tongue, the serpent opened its maw ready to swallow the girl whole. The girl shuddered and curled up, giving up on herself. Zhuo Fan's right eye flashed with a golden ring, and he appeared next to her. With another flash, they were gone. The savage serpent bit down but got nothing but fresh water. It looked around agape. Where'd she go? The more it looked around, the more shocked it became. Not for a second did the serpent believe that she was fast enough to escape its range. The only plausible answer was an illusion. It lifted its huge tail, creating a 50-meter wide splash. It rubbed its head with the tip in bewilderment. How come? Am I growing senile and have started seeing things? In another area, the girl closed her eyes and shivered in Zhuo Fan's embrace, waiting for the jaws of death to rob her life. She waited, yet nothing came. Not even pain. She only felt a bit chilly as the breeze traced her curves. The girl cracked her eyes open to see a broad chest and the blue sky. Zhuo Fan was paying attention to where he flew with a cold stare. But when he felt her squirming, he said, "You're all right, ah?" Zhuo Fan's voice was stuck in his throat, and his scalp went numb watching the nubile figure. The girl's naked. The girl looked at him and then at her silky smooth and uncovered skin before blushing and wailing, "Ah, you rogue. Don't look. Close your eyes. You're the damn rogue. What are you doing coming here without clothes? Since when is drifting flowers edifices so deviant?" "What drifting flowers edifices? I know no drifting flowers edifices. I thought I told you to shut your eyes. Don't you dare look." "Zip it. It's perfectly normal for a man to look, especially now. Go and wear something if you don't like it." "You." She glared at him and huffed. Her eyes sparkled, on the verge of tears, and her face was growing flushed by the second. Chapter 271, Beast Mistress. Chapter 271, Beast Mistress. Ding. In the thick forest, Zhuo Fan was facing away from the bush behind him in silence and focus. He could even hear some clear ringing coming from that bush. Zhuo Fan sighed. No good deed goes unpunished. He went and saved the damsel, only to find her naked. So they made a pit stop at a bush to dress up. But this chick was taking her sweet time doing it. Can't you just put on a coat or a robe and be done with it? Look at me. Rustle. The grass crunched behind him, and Zhuo Fan turned. He was in for the shock of his life. He hadn't gotten a good look at this damsel, with the rescuing and all, but now that he had, she was quite the looker. She had a cute button nose, more than generous curves, and big eyes to reflect complex emotions. Considering her clothes, it was a striking difference from the refined and graceful silken robes. They were made with ease of movements in mind. The constant ringing finally drew his attention to her bracelet having a bell attached, completing her wild look. She's a foreigner. Zhuo Fan watched on speechless. Never had it crossed his mind that in a place filled with his clan's disciples, he would find a girl not native of Tianyu. Noticing the obvious look she was getting, the girl blushed. She was squirming with shyness, but still had the guts to give him a sharp glare. "What are you looking at? See how I'll poke your eyes out." "TCH, not that there's anything to see. Why are you so feisty?" Zhuo Fan jabbed. The girl blushed harder and felt disgruntled. She was a pure and single girl, and then she stumbled upon this stranger who had got more than an eyeful. How could she face the world now? She was mortified, wishing to bury her head in her chest, go die. All this while Zhuo Fan was walking away cursing, "God friggin' damn it. I saved the wrong damsel and wasted all this time too." Glaring, the girl spat. "What's the meaning of this? You regret saving me?" She skipped in front of him and fixed her piercing eyes on him. Zhuo Fan's words struck a nerve, and she got over her shyness in a jiffy. "I'm an exotic beauty, a man's dream. It was your greatest fortune getting to save me and even getting an eyeful. What's with that tone? As if you were the one found naked. I am the one hurting here. You ruined me. Humph, greedy pig." The girl's eyes were staring a hole into Zhuo Fan, wishing to tear him a new one, and Zhuo Fan's response? Pushing her aside in mid-stride. "Move. I've wasted enough pointless time on you as it is." The girl eyed the proud Zhuo Fan walking away and blinked. "And you call yourself a man?" This was a first. All the men she had met so far were quite taken with her, not cold as ice like this one. Then she recalled the desire in his eyes when he got an eyeful in the sky, and it was clear that this guy was a man from head to toe. So why? Then it hit her. What was she doing looking hopeful instead of getting her due for staining a girl's reputation? How mortifying. She cupped her blushing cheeks, her mind drawing all kinds of untoward conclusions. Not that Zhuo Fan had a mind to care. He ignored this fated encounter and was this close to forgetting her as well. What was the point in remembering every bystander? Roar. A sudden gust signaled the appearance of a golden panther as it jumped down from a tree up above it, stared savagely at Zhuo Fan, bearing its reeking fangs as well. 4th level spiritual beast, mountain crossing golden panther. The girl cried in fear. Zhuo Fan only frowned with slight worry. With 4th level spiritual beasts being the order of the day on Beast King Mountain, he was plagued by what might happen to Yunhai. The girl figured Zhuo Fan was rooted to his spot from sheer terror and rushed to his rescue. The spiritual beast started laughing at Zhuo Fan's outlandish reaction. I scared the kid witless with my entrance. Perfect. It has been days since my last feast. Roar. The kitty pounced. It's maw ready to swallow Zhuo Fan whole. Zhuo Fan smiled as his eyes were about to flash the danger away, just as a graceful figure jumped in front and blocked the savage bee sting. The girl's bracelet rang melodiously as she faced that savage pair of eyes with her charm. The girl then started moving her waist to the ringing, just like a dance. All the beast could do was gawk in a trance at the dancing girl. Zhuo Fan was stunned. He never knew you could deal with spiritual beasts in such an outlandish way. Through dancing and soul power, one charmed their opponent. Humans were hardly affected, but spiritual beasts with their tiny minds gobbled it up on the spot as the girl went along her dancing routine. The spiritual beast's head was lolling about, and its eyes glazed. Then the girl clapped. The savage beast's head cocked and slumped. The fear and dizziness in its eyes made a stark contrast with the contentment on its face. Left gasping. The girl wiped her brow. Zhuo Fan smiled. Ha ha ha, you're really something. This world sure is wide, and there are many approaches to the same problem. Hey, don't just stand there and comment on my skill from your high horse. Snapping her glare on him, the girl said after a pause, looking at you. You're just a 9th layer bone tempering cultivator. No wonder this 4th level spiritual beast scared you silly. Right back at you. Who was it, I wonder, that had her bare ass saved from that lake? Zhuo Fan snickered. The girl now had his full attention. Blushing, the girl stuck out her head. How is that the same? That thing in the water was a 6th level spiritual beast. Wait, how are you able to fly as a bone tempering cultivator? How did you save me? I am in the 2nd layer of the profound heaven stage myself, but not even I could escape that monster. Finally getting her wits about her, she realized the sheer ridiculousness of it all. How was she spared from ending up a 6th level spiritual beast's lunch? Zhuo Fan wasn't about to blurt all his secrets to a total stranger and only showed off his lightning wings with a smile. These things are quite fast, enough to outrun a water serpent. The girl blinked for a second and nodded. I see. A 6th grade flying spiritual weapon. The sight of those lightning-streaked wings had the girl musing. Then she said in all seriousness, Oi, kid, since you saved me and I saved you, we're even. Zhuo Fan nodded. Though technically, he could have easily dealt with the kitty, but the girl flushed again for some odd reason and was plagued by indecision. Her voice grew fainter to such a degree, even Zhuo Fan would have had a hard time hearing if not for his cultivation. You still owe me for seeing me naked. Oh, that makes sense. Zhuo Fan nodded and chuckled. I totally understand you. Don't worry, I am not one to leave a dead unsettled. One moment. Zhuo Fan then removed his sash. The girl became bug-eyed and turned away in embarrassment. What are you doing, rogue? You said I took advantage of your plight, so I'm only returning the favor. This should make us even. He. Rest easy, milady. I will definitely won't ask anything in return, including integrity. Zhuo Fan snickered, sizing the shivering lady with a curious eye. The girl was fuming now. Damn pervert. That's not what I meant. What else is there? You mean you want more? Zhuo Fan grinned. Fine. My magnanimous self will never be so petty as a certain girl. Go ahead. Feel me up as much as you want. Ha ha ha. Do as you wish with me. I won't complain. Really, not one peep. Ah, rotten pervert. I've had it with you. The girl was stomping and pouting. I only want you to help me get some shaping spring. I don't need to see your shaping spring. Zhuo Fan's playful mood was gone, replaced by dead seriousness. This matter is starting to become interesting. Chapter 272, Shaping Spring. Chapter 272, Shaping Spring. Shaping Spring was an underground river flowing for millions of years. Subjected to constant heat from the core, it was formed of Earth's essence, and it was priceless. While Ice Heart Moon Soul of Shui Qingjian was a peak water treasure of Yin. The shaping spring was a yang water essence just like diamond sand. The shaping spring was among the best ingredients, if not the best itself. They said diamond sand was the blood of the earth, while shaping spring was earth's blood's blood. Diamond sand was a hard ingredient and shaping spring a soft one. Diamond sand made strong spiritual weapons, while shaping spring allowed a spiritual weapon to go through endless changes. Water had no form, shape, or size, and with just a drop of shaping spring placed in a spiritual weapon, it would turn into a sacred item, free to change its size at will, big and unstoppable as a hammer of 1,000 pounds, or small and sublime like an invisible needle. There was one more incredible property the shaping spring had the others didn't know about. It matched with a body-refining array. Zhuo Fan grinned as his mind drifted to the tall pillar in his thunder ring. It not once crossed his mind to take this direction, since he never could. But now he had a chance at getting the shaping spring, and with it, he could complete that art written in the 9 Serenities secret records. He may very well gain the same freakish power Gu Santong exhibited. Zhuo Fan was very excited to try if he could get his hands on the same power that made Gu Santong invincible in Tianyu. Then the father and son pair, but not even his imagination could fully grasp the extent of such power. The danger of achieving such a godly refinement was thousands of times greater than when he refined his body with diamond sand. Hesitation had him for a second, but he shook his head clear. There's no time to delay. That thought comes after I can get it. Then his trademark evil smile graced his face once again. Miss, what would you have me do? The girl eyed him skeptically. Why is this punk so warm all of a sudden? Odd. But taking a look at Zhuo Fan's cultivation in the bone-tempering stage, her worries were put to rest. What could a 9th layer of bone-tempering stage possibly do when he only had a 6th-grade spiritual weapon built for speed? The girl smiled in kind. Come with me. Help me get the shaping spring, and what you did to me, it'll make us square. The girl blushed. Zhuo Fan nodded with the same hypocritical smile. As always, he felt like sighing. Oh, so many people judge me by my cultivation, only to be swallowed whole by me. This girlie is no different. He followed close behind her with a cold smile. For some very odd reason, she shivered from a creepy feeling striking her very core. Yet her response was to cock her head in bewilderment. Ah, another lady got duped. The duo soon arrived at the edge of a lake. Zhuo Fan's eyes trembled. Isn't this the same lake I saved her from? The girl smiled. Hey, do you know why I was in danger last time? Do you even need to ask? Bathing in some else's home is the same as taking a leak in it. If I was that water serpent, I'd swallow you in one gulp too. Zhuo Fan said sagely, blushing. She seethed. What bathing? Who would do that in such a dangerous place? Where do you come up with all these dumb conclusions? What else is there? Weren't you going all natural when I got you out? Zhuo Fan scratched his nose, yet for some reason, despite his unfazed face, his body was quite honest. 2 trails of blood flowed down his nose. Zhuo Fan was stunned. Why am I bleeding? The girl was flushed and smacked his head in resentfulness. Stop having errant thoughts, or I what? Make me bathe naked for you to look? Zhuo Fan snorted. The girl was stomping in anger, red as a tomato. Zhuo Fan asked, how? That thing was 500 meters long. The cave is too small for. Zhuo Fan's eyes jumped. The girl giggled and made good use of this rare chance to mock him. You're not as dumb as you look. Yes, that serpent is definitely eating the shaping spring. It allows it to change its size and enter that cave. What makes you so sure shaping spring is in there? Perhaps the venomous serpent ate it somewhere else, or maybe it's in the middle of eating. Zhuo Fan frowned. Whoosh. With a flash of light, a golden-tailed carp jumped in front of him, splashing his face with icy cold water. The girl giggled, reveling in his misery, content she finally managed to get some retribution. Zhuo Fan wiped his face, uncaring that she did it on purpose. I see. You have a 1st-level water-type pet you used to scout the poisonous serpent's cave while it was away. Clever boy. The girl winked and smiled. I've been staking out the strange 6th-level spiritual beast since I found it a month ago. Until 3 days ago, it only kept to the cave. So I used my 1st-level spiritual beast, golden fin fish, to find that it really contained shaping spring. But that poisonous serpent was truly vicious, coming back just an hour later. So I waited the past 3 days for it to come out. But since it didn't, I had no choice but to go in and confront it. Seeing the girl's charming smile, like she had hit the jackpot, Zhuo Fan jabbed. So you got naked and tried working your wiles on it? Wait, that ain't right. You're different species. Even if you forced yourself on that hunk, it would only see you as lunch. What nonsense are you babbling? Who would ever seduce that beast? Blushing, the girl gnashed her teeth in anger. I only intended to use my beast-controlling art to tame it. There is nothing obscene about it. Beast taming? What does that have to do with you running around in all your glory? Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow. The girl's glare sharpened a notch. Oi, could you stop with the vulgarities? My clan's beast-controlling art pays special attention to being one with nature. The more in tune one is, the stronger the art. Since I can only tame a 4th-level spiritual beast at most, I had to give my body and soul in joining with nature this time around. But I failed anyway because its soul is stronger than average and almost lost my life at its jaws of death. Zhuo Fan nodded. The venomous serpent was related to the flood dragon. Dragon blood flowed through its veins. How could it be just a mere 6th-level spiritual beast? The girl was in over her head trying to charm the beastie with her skill. Oi, brat, weren't you quick at flying? Draw the venomous serpent out and let me fetch the shaping spring. Do that, and I will cross out the crass attitude and disrespect you showed me. The girl showed a bewitching smile and batted her big puppy eyes that might have worked on your average hormone-riddled male to fire him up in braving any dangers. But Zhuo Fan, however, was a stone-cold killer, my thoughts exactly. Zhuo Fan showed his trademark evil smirk. The girl's eyes shined with glee, but Zhuo Fan could easily see a spark of contempt hidden there. One that said, all men are the same. Humph, ignorant bint. Now that I know where shaping spring is, you've outlived your usefulness. Snickering to himself, Zhuo Fan flew to the cave. The girl stared at him all the way with an increasingly wider smile. She could practically hold the shaping spring in her arms, yet something nagged her in the corner of her mind. Isn't this perhaps a little too easy? Is this man that much of a fool, so easily taken in by some eye batting and exploited to his literal death? Chapter 273, Great Hall. Chapter 273, Great Hall. Bang! Zhuo Fan pummeled the entrance wall. The gonging sound was eerily similar to someone knocking on a metal door. The girl looked on dazed, from a very safe distance. This punk has nerves of steel. I'll give him that. Or is he plain indifferent to the 6th-level spiritual beast just waiting for him inside? Speaking of his insensitivity, was he that easily taken in by my charm? The girl looked at him closer. Something isn't right here. Splash. Then, the sound of water was heard, and a meter-long water serpent swam out of the cave. It shook as its body expanded. It was back to its 500 meters long size in a blink, which created a huge splash as he hissed at the two humans' hiss. The stench licked his cheek, and Zhuo Fan clutched his nose as he sized the snake. This guy ate, shaping spring all right. The girl was waving her hand down yonder in panic. Not out of worry for Zhuo Fan, of course, but his death would mean her venture would abruptly end with a big fat 0 haul. Why is this brat just standing there? Is he scared shitless? Goddamn it. Why did I fail when I'm so close? The girl gnashed her teeth in annoyance. The venomous serpent thought the same. Laughing out loud and looking with contempt, this brat must be so naive to knock at my home. Now that he has basked in my royal glory, he's scared witless. Ha ha ha, it's only natural. Even I am in awe of my glorious self most of the time. Ha ha. Glancing at the delusional snake and its wagging tail, Zhuo Fan could read him like a book. He grinned as he simply flew inside the cave. Guard this place and don't come in without my say. Zhuo Fan belittled this useless thing and just waltzed in. The venomous serpent was out of it from shock. What did he just say? To watch the door? The serpent was enraged. No one ever ignored it, least of all claim its cave like he owned the place. Oi, punk, do you have any idea whose home this is? Do you have a death wish? Hiss. The venomous serpent got closer to Zhuo Fan and hissed in his face, covering him in drool. It hoped to knock some sense into him with its almighty majesty. The girl was soaked from fear. "Run, you fool." Yet Zhuo Fan only had disdain in his eyes. He wiped the drool from his face and glared. "Behave?" The venomous serpent almost spat blood. It had never met someone so full of themselves to ignore it and even belittle it. It was royally pissed. The girl was scared witless. "You behave, brat. You're pissing it off by telling it to watch the door. I get you want to die, but could you at least do it down yonder? Some of us still need to get in, you know?" The guy's brains are on the fritz. She sighed. She could practically see the kid torn into pieces by the angry venomous serpent, and that was what the serpent was about to do. Holy friggin' balls. I've seen many dauntless, but none so boneheaded to not even care for their lives. They look for death, or, better yet, they deserve death with such an idiotic stance. "You're dead meat, so cut the act. Humph, as you wish, this king will send you off." Licking its sharp fangs, the venomous serpent hissed and went on to swallow him whole. With how the red mouth was covered in poison, Zhuo Fan would find himself melting the instant he touched it. The girl closed her eyes and looked away. She couldn't bear the horror that followed, yet Zhuo Fan was cool as a cucumber as the azure flame flashed in his eyes. A ripple racked the venomous serpent. Scared, the huge serpent froze in its place. He was soaked in sweat, even as his maw was right on top of Zhuo Fan, with fangs bared and all. And yet he just didn't chomp. The look in Zhuo Fan's eye got him so terrified, it started shivering. "You're so feisty to not listen when you're ordered." Zhuo Fan shook his head as he went in like he owned the place, leaving the venomous serpent behind like a statue, scared and dumbfounded. What power was that? The serpent's heart was frantic. Spiritual beasts cared a lot about levels, more than the strength even. A 6th-level spiritual beast's pup was no stronger than a 3rd-level spiritual beast, but no 4th-level spiritual beast would dare attack it. It was their inborn majestic aura doing its thing. No low-level spiritual beast messed with a higher one, ever. It was etched in their bones, blood, and the like. As a 6th-level spiritual beast, it was invincible here. A king lording over the masses. It had the right to pick on others, not the other way around. But it finally got his due in the form of Zhuo Fan. The guy flexed his power for a blink and scared the living daylights out of the snake. It had no clue what level of spiritual beast that power was equivalent to, but its blood told him to surrender and lay down all hostilities against Zhuo Fan. Damn it all to hell. What was that? He held such power that it made even a 6th-level spiritual beast shake in its own skin. What savage beast could have such power? And why is it with a human? Is he perhaps a dreadful beast's young? The venomous serpent was sweating buckets. It was just like a beggar meeting an emperor, with only obedience in his heart. If it was told to guard the door, that was what it'd do. What was so bad about it anyway? It went to such an extent that the snake swam out of the cave and didn't even have the gall to look behind him, while the girl who had struck Zhuo Fan off as a dead man sneaked a peek all this time and was now dumbstruck. What the hell? Since when were vicious, venomous serpents so meek? It's not only not entering the cave, but was even posing as a damn watchdog. How in bloody hell did a bone-tempering cultivator do this? Does he also have a secret beast-taming art? The girl cocked her head, glancing at Zhuo Fan, going further in with amazement and more than a little curiosity. This brat isn't as dumb as he looks. He may very well not have needed my help with the 4th-level spiritual beast as well. Wait, if he's so strong and all, why is he hiding it? Is he planning to take it all for himself? The girl panicked and stomped in anger. Her wish to go in there herself was curbed by the venomous serpent guard at the door. This time, she was close to blowing a gasket. She had wasted a month staking out this place, only to let another person reap the reward. I was hustled. She then pouted and slumped on the ground, sulking. Back to Zhuo Fan, the man in question soon arrived at the end of the cave. The view here shocked him senseless. The cave was your average hole in the mountain, opening into a room 1,000 square meters in size. But the dazzling scene was breathtaking. He came here for shaping spring and actually found so many high-grade herbs. There were 100 8th grade and at least 1,000 7th grade herbs. Such haul could contest with the 7 houses stores, if not even imperial families. Holy Mother of God! True wealth truly comes from nature. He assumed these were all gathered by the snaky, but why didn't he eat them? To last him through the winter? More for me, I guess. He. Without further ado, and not caring for the beast outside, he pocketed all herbs with a wave. He even went to every corner and made sure he didn't miss anything. Zhuo Fan cackled like mad for such a great haul. It echoed along the cave walls and traveled outside. Venomous Serpent's heart sank and tears fell from his eyes. The girl heard the cackle as well and almost sank into depression. Those were supposed to be mine. Having already scouted the cave with her pet fish, she knew what a jackpot that cave held. She didn't tell Zhuo Fan about it in fear he'd want a bite as well, and now? He didn't just take a bite, but swallowed it whole. The girl was wallowing in misery, tears threatening to burst out of her clear eyes. Chapter 274, Divine Eye of the Void, Second Stage. Chapter 274, Divine Eye of the Void, Second Stage. Whoosh! Zhuo Fan drifted around in the cave, waving his ring in every direction. He could feel joy bubbling out of him with every precious ingredient being tucked away in the safe confines of his ring. He just came to Beast King Mountain and had already made a killing. This is the best goddamn omen of all. Zhuo Fan cackled, his sound chilling the snake and human outside to the bone after he had made sure nothing was left unappropriated. Zhuo Fan began his search for shaping spring in earnest. His soul sense spread to every corner. Then Zhuo Fan rushed deeper. Standing next to a hot spring, he watched the bottom of the spring in shock. An all-natural hot spring. It was 10-meter wide and had hot water coming out from the wall in front. But what was truly amazing was the thick white layer at the bottom of it. Zhuo Fan knew right away that this was shaping spring. Isn't it a bit too much? Not even he had hoped to find so much of the underground miraculous treasure. Just a vial of the stuff could buy you a town. He'd be happy with just a bowl. But he didn't just get a bowl. He instead got a whole tub. He could literally bathe in it. Zhuo Fan shuddered from excitement. Thinking back on this mountain, he realized that only after billions of years of accumulation could have gathered so much of shaping spring. There would have been even more of it if not for a certain snake sampling it. This is enough as it is. Anyways, one shouldn't be too greedy. It's bad for health. Zhuo Fan chuckled at his egotistical thinking. Any who heard him would have spat blood. If you're not greedy, then the people in this world are all altruists. Humph, greedy pig. Plop. With a laugh, Zhuo Fan jumped right in. He sank until the shaping spring reached his waist. Zhuo Fan quirked his eyebrows in glee. So deep. There was even more of the shaping spring than he thought was possible. Zhuo Fan went right down to business, taking out bottles and filling them with the stuff before throwing them into his ring. Zhuo Fan's face always sported that dumb grin throughout this ordeal, smiling from ear to ear. I hit pay dirt coming to this Beast King Mountain. It's totally worth it even if I don't get that brimming sacred pill. Ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan's laughter echoed throughout the cave. Bam. While he was hauling his booty, he touched upon something. It didn't sound like a rock, but something hollow. He groped around blindly before taking out a blue vial. Zhuo Fan looked at it curiously. Why is there a vial here? Is collecting baubles another one of the serpent's hobbies? But the writing on it left him stupefied. My luck can't be that good, right? Did I actually stumble upon a brimming sacred pill? Yes, sir. The vial had those exact words on it. The cap even had a seal on it to not leak its fragrance and attract spiritual beasts. Zhuo Fan started flipping it. Feng Qiubai threw 5 such pills into Beast King Mountain at the start. This one must have flown through an underground river and chanced upon this place, with the snake totally oblivious of it. Zhuo Fan sighed. I'm so lucky, even I'm scared. The odds of finding a brimming sacred pill among shaping spring was a true close to 0 chance, but was he one to waste such an opportunity? Hell no. He threw it in his ring and resumed hauling his loot. It took him half a day of grueling work to capture it all. Down to the last drop, the venomous serpent outside was swimming around, peeved. Just what are you doing in my home? Couldn't you at least leave some for me? Wah. Uncaring and unfeeling for the heartbroken snake outside. Zhuo Fan had no idea about the meaning of restraint. He took one last look at the spotless walls and nodded in satisfaction that he didn't miss anything. Woe was the poor snake. It was now a millionaire turned pauper, wrung dry by Zhuo Fan. If it had only seen this spotless place, it'd be crying his lungs out. Not that the greedy Zhuo Fan ever cared. Mind you, Zhuo Fan now took his time to inspect the brimming sacred pill. He uncapped it and swallowed it with enemies coming out at every turn in the esoteric debate. He was hard-pressed to find such leisure again, giving him enough time to refine the pill. It'd be best to stay in here, under the snake's watch, and grow stronger. Boom. An explosion of soul power happened the instant he swallowed it. As if a sea was unleashed in his head, his mind threatened to burst. Zhuo Fan never thought the pill would be so outrageously strong. Finding it painful even for him to absorb such a vast amount, nevertheless, he was happy as he channeled it into his right eye. With his soul at the radiant stage, increasing it a few more times would hardly help him in this battle. His focus was on reaching the divine eye of the void's second stage with the help of the brimming sacred pill. The first stage had incredible power and made him practically invincible, but the second stage was even more so, as it covered his deadly weakness. His victory in this final battle solely rested on it. Zhuo Fan's right eye burned hot as the golden ring in it flickered. Slowly, a second golden halo came into existence beyond the first. Even if blood spilled from his eye, even if the pain was excruciating, he braced for it and remained staunch. If he hadn't missed his chance in Dragon Cloud City, it wouldn't have been such an ordeal. But now, forced by circumstances, he chose to power his way through, multiplying his agony. Instead, he couldn't even spare the attention to care, though. Even as he bled from his eye, even as he was soaked in sweat, he still remained firmly seated on the ground. Over the next couple of days, Zhuo Fan was in constant frown and veins bulged on his forehead. He was still suffering through the pain and felt the breaking point drawing ever nearer. He reached his limit on the afternoon of the third day. He was teetering on the edge. Just as the second halo formed in his right eye, an invisible wave shot to the skies the next moment. A simple glare actually made a small hole straight through the whole 500-meter-tall mountain above him like it was nothing. The bright sky, the warm sunlight, passed through it and shined upon the gleeful Zhuo Fan. He was spent and weary, but thrilled. Divine eye of the void's second stage, void annihilation. The power to break through any space. Even trapped in an array or space, he'd now have no problem blowing his way out, all thanks to a little help from something called Divine Eye of the Void's second stage. Ha ha ha. Awesome. I am truly invincible now. Zhuo Fan cackled, but fell the instant he tried getting up. He guessed that he would have to wait as tending to his soul came first. A great deal of his soul power was used on breaking through, and it was now time to use the rest to cultivate, so he sat cross-legged again the next day. His soul spread around and found everything to be far clearer. He realized the range had increased to 2 miles and flew out of the cave. He had struck the motherlode coming to Beast King Mountain. Whoosh! Shooting out of the cave with a thunderclap, he ignored the snake and took to the skies with his nemesis finally out. The venomous serpent shrank his size and entered the cave. The empty and spotless place left him wailing in rage. The horde he grew throughout his life was gone, just like that. Even Shaping Spring was picked clean. He licked the hot spring and found not a drop remaining. The snake wailed. He is worse than a bandit. But then he noticed the bright sky above and almost fainted from anger. Blast it all to hell. Have you no restraint? You already cleaned me out, and now you go as far as punching holes in my home? What did I ever do to you? Wah. Chapter 275, Ruler of the World. Chapter 275, Ruler of the World. Whoosh! Thunder cracked across the bright sky, announcing Zhuo Fan's lightning-fast flight. His face pleased as punch. What was that saying? One good deed deserves another. Yeah, that's the one. I saved that annoying lass, and nature replied in kind from her bountiful bosom. I'll have to rethink my approach and spread kindness from now on. Huh? Zhuo Fan cackled. Then he spotted the same girl not far ahead. She figured he was going to take off and waited for him outside. Oh, miss, do you need something? Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow, fuming mad. She said, hand it over. Hand what over? Zhuo Fan played dumb. The girl barked. Shaping Spring and those herbs. Think I am so stupid not to realize what you've been doing in there? But I am a woman of morals, so I won't bicker. According to the laws of the cultivation world, half belongs to me by right. Bint, no can do. Zhuo shook his head. You said giving you half is fair, but why would I ever do that? The lady played the kicked puppy card. But I found it. First come, first serve. If it weren't for me, you'd never get them. So give me my fair share. The girl panicked. Zhuo smiled. Did you forget I saved you? To repay me, you showed me the treasury. Now we're even, but bye. Zhuo left laughing, but the lady blocked him again with a snarl. You damn bastard. Out of respect for saving me, I wasn't going to argue with you and split the haul evenly. But you just don't know when to quit. Her second layer of profound heaven cultivation exploded, glaring at Zhuo with the clear intent to fight him over it. Zhuo yawned. Missy, power isn't always limited by cultivation stages. Once we fight, your hopes are dashed. Humph. Damn egomaniac, enough bluffing. You may have subdued the 6th level spiritual beast, but I'm no spiritual beast. I also know taming arts, and they only work on spiritual beasts. Stop trying to scare me, it ain't going to work. She then punched straight for Zhuo face. The fierce power of the fist came barreling down towards him. Backed by her second layer of profound heaven cultivation, it had no effect on Zhuo. However, still calm and uncaring as he vanished. The girl was left speechless the next second. She found her wrist yanked behind her back. She then started crying from pain. Why, you're breaking my arm. Let go. Zhuo shook his head and let go. She jumped 10 meters away and looked at him perplexed. How did he do that? He was clearly in the 9th layer of bone-tempering stage, yet overpowered a second layer of profound heaven cultivator in both power and speed. She felt like a mouse in the claws of a hawk. This doesn't make sense. It's too damn freaky. Only now did she recall Zhuo words. This guy is a bloody monster. The girl gnashed her teeth, and a flick of the hand revealed 3 roaring 4th-level spiritual beasts, ready to pounce at Zhuo. Zhuo raised an eyebrow curiously. You're not half bad, I'll give you that. You don't see that every day, a lady having 3 4th-level spirit animals. Hee, scared? She stuck her chin out in her boasting. Let me tell you, I have a dozen spirit animals, but these 3 are my most cherished ones, and they even know how to fly. I would have drowned you in my spirit animals if we were on the ground instead. Zhuo looked at her oddly. Most people in Tianyu focused on personal power, with hardly any interest in rearing beasts. That made spirit animals a rarity. You were hard-pressed to find even high-stage experts having one, but this girl here was quite average in cultivation, yet had over 10 spirit animals. It was Zhuo's first time meeting someone who specialized in rearing beasts. His odd looks, however, were taken as fear by the lass, who cackled. It's too late to be scared now. But if your apology is heartfelt enough, and you give me those items, I may be inclined to spare your miserable life. I will even forgive your earlier transgression. Whatever gave you the idea that I'm scared? Did you forget how that 6th-level spiritual beast acted in front of me? Just like a kitty. And you think some 4th-level spiritual beasts will do? Ha ha ha. Zhuo sneered. The girl snapped. See, cut your boasting. Who knows what you really did to that serpent? But it can only be something similar to my own taming art, a soul attack. But these 3 pets of mine are linked with my soul. Their master's orders are paramount. It will be impossible for you to tame them. Oh, shall I give it a shot? Zhuo snickered. The naked contempt he showed only earned her ire. Attack. Show him your power. Roar. The 3 beasts were extremely loyal, jumping on Zhuo the moment they were given the go signal. Yet nothing could unnerve Zhuo. The 3 were right on top of him, ready to tear him to pieces when his eyes flashed azure. Just like the 6th-level spiritual beast before, the 3 pets froze and started sweating like pigs. Mommy, who the hell is this big shot? Why is he so scary? Without further ado, the scared, witless beasts bolted with tail between their legs. Swift as the wind, it took a long time for the truth to worm itself into the girl's mind. Sheer absurdity of it all. She then shouted for her pets to come back, but would they listen? What master's orders were paramount? Life was infinitely more precious. Blast it. Is the master's brain on the fritz? Why would we ever face such horror? To die? The girl shouted herself hoarse, but her pets were long gone. Infuriating her then, she sobered up and shuddered from fear. Zhuo Fan drifted towards her with his mocking smile. It seems being linked with your pets ain't all sunshine and rainbows. With the three of them horrified, their master is ought to feel some of that fear herself. Who the hell are you? The girl froze, watching him in horror. Now she knew why the 6th-level spiritual beast held this man in such fear. And her pets were no different, because this man didn't use something as trifling as his soul to subdue them, but instilled a sense of utter dread in their very being that even robbed them of the thought of fighting back. But how? Why would vicious beasts show such fear towards one simple man? Such a ludicrous story was never heard anywhere in the world, but this guy did it with ease. Just who is he? Zhuo Fan smiled and answered her doubts. I will one day rule this world. With a laugh and flap of his wings, he was gone. He left the girl shivering and staring dumbly in shock. This mystery man had tangled with her so many times and left her with a bone-deep impression. Those final words were etched in her mind. She would scoff if it was anyone else saying them, but for some reason, hearing them from Zhuo Fan made her believe he could do it. How could Tianyu have such a dreadful man? The girl was filled with trepidation. Whoosh! 2 black-robed men flashed in front of her. Liener, is something wrong? One asked, while the other followed with, Young miss, are you all right? She only looked at them with fear in her eyes. Brother, Tianyu isn't something we can just attack. It's best that we fall back. Then her vision blurred, and she fell unconscious. The 2 held her in worry, calling out to her. What did she mean? Chapter 276, Plight. Chapter 276, Plight. Young chief, young miss is only shaken up. You don't need to worry. The night sky was brightened by the moon's glow and dazzling stars. In a dusky cave crackled a bonfire, shining its light onto the 100 black-robed figures. All with heads down and in solemn silence, a white-mustached old man glanced at the girl resting near the fire with a youth at her side. The youth asked, She is in extreme shock. But why? I've known my sister for all my life. She grew among spiritual beasts and is very brash. Just what could have scared her so much? Well, the old man frowned, then sighed. It is different for everyone. I am sorry this old man can't be of any help. The youth sighed and waved the old man away. It was now that the resting girl's eyes fluttered, and she said weakly, Be brother. Liener, you're awake. The youth grabbed her wrist in happiness. The other black-robed men rejoiced but did not disturb them. Liener, what happened to you? You were strong enough to wander the Beast King Mountain for months. So why did you suddenly black out? That was dangerous. The youth looked at her in concern. Liener nodded, her eyes glistening as she said anxiously, Brother, don't attack Tianyu. It holds our natural enemy, and if we attack rashly, we will suffer greatly. Our clan will be ruined. The youth looked at her puzzled. So she propped her weak body up and began retelling her encounter with Zhuo Fan from start to finish. The youth was shocked. What? Tianyu has such a mystical power to cower spiritual beasts. The faces of everyone around them fell. This news was a nightmare. Tianyu is a true dragon among men. We can't underestimate it. Taking a deep breath, the youth stood and paced around with a frown. We, the Chuanrong, are experts in rearing beasts, able to sweep the lands with our beast army. Not even that god of war, Dugu Zhantian, dares face us. Only with the help of his arrays and formations can he stand on equal ground to us. But if Tianyu has someone capable of instilling fear into beasts, to the point they'd go against their master's orders, our beast army will collapse in a heartbeat. The others nodded, having reached the same dreadful conclusion. This news broke Chuanrong's strongest advantage, robbing them of any means to attack young chief. Allow this general to purge this danger from the world. A strapping middle-aged man cupped his hands from the powerful waves he released. This man was clearly a radiant stage expert. Mulling it over, the youth shook his head in the end. No, Tianyu is in the middle of its esoteric debate. We need to use this chance and inspect the teleportation array from the shadows. The slightest mistake on our part will endanger our entire operation. Brother, you still want to do it? But that guy Liener spoke in worry. The youth came to a decision. All the more reason. If we can't conquer Tianyu, we will never get the chance again and will lose every future war. They all nodded solemnly. Lianer sighed. But brother, is that man truly trustworthy? Can we really take Tianyu in one move? Ha ha, Lianer and everyone needs to relax. There is no better spy in Tianyu than that man. The youth cackled, as if the world was his oyster. Back to Zhuo Fan, he was still flying among the clouds in search of Luo Yunhai and the rest. Suddenly, his nose twitched and he changed directions. Blood. Whoosh! Zhuo Fan landed near a river, soaked in blood and bodies coming from upstream. The wounds on the bodies clearly showed they were man-made. A great battle must be underway upstream, and he rushed to investigate. His discerning field was strong enough to scout 2 miles ahead in great detail. He could even see what was behind those 2 mountains in front. Zhuo Fan bypassed them with his senses and saw a great deal of men gathered at the mouth of a valley. From their signatures, he easily identified them as Luo Yunhai, Xuaningxiang, and other second- and third-rate clans. Outside the valley entrance were the vassals of the Regent Estates faction, forcing Yunhai's group into the valley. He had no clue who they were, but their leader couldn't be more familiar. Zhuo Fan snickered. Oh my, now a cripple goes out hunting? You must have a death wish. Quite right. The man leading the attack on Luo Yunhai was Forest Fleeting Dragon, Lin Xianfeng. Albeit a one-legged dragon, but he still had the power to shock everyone. His dragon title was shaky now, but to the average profound heaven expert, he was undefeated. Lin Xianfeng looked coldly at his enemies and shouted, "Listen up, I only care about the Luo clan to settle a grudge. I don't have time to waste on extras, so get lost. Or you could just follow Luo clan to their grave." The men were tense and glanced at Luo Yunhai. It was obvious Lin Xianfeng was taking it out on the Luo clan for having Zhuo Fan rip his leg clean off. Their grudges had nothing to do with these second-rate clans, although vassals of Drifting Flowers Edifices, Sword Marquis Abode, and Veiled Dragon Pavilion were allies of Luo clan. They were nonetheless far from willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice in defending them. Luo Yunhai knew this, as well as he said solemnly, "Our meeting was pure chance, friends. There's no need to implicate yourself as well. If you wish. Useless cripple, our fate lies with the Luo clan. You don't scare us. Why don't you pick on Big Brother Zhuo if you have the guts?" The charming voice cut Luo Yunhai off, with a brash and arrogant tone. Her allies were scared witless. "Young miss, if you want to defend Luo clan and die, go right ahead. We won't stop you. But could you please not drag us into this as well? And why are you even mentioning that guy's name? Are you trying to piss off Lin Xianfeng some more? How are we supposed to face that whirlwind, Lin Xianfeng?" They all felt like crying. Having their lifeline cut off without remorse, Shui Gang and Shui Lin looked at Xuaningxiang with a shake of their heads. They knew she liked Zhuo Fan, but going as far as ticking off Lin Xianfeng was the worst-case scenario. Luo Yunhai looked at Xuaningxiang, moved. "Sister Ninger, thank you." "What thanks? Without Big Brother Zhuo around, it falls to me to keep you safe." Xuaningxiang patted her chest with a prideful face. She was happy as long as she could do anything for Zhuo Fan, and yet her brothers were crying inside. "Damn brat. How can you look after someone when you're constantly being looked after? Moreover, Luo Yunhai and his 10 guards are stronger than any of us. How can we even protect them?" Luo Yunhai scratched his nose. I am grateful for Sister Ninger's good intentions, but it's best if I take Big Brother Zhuo's place and look after you." Ninger patted Luo Yunhai's head and smiled. "Never mind protecting me, since Big Brother Zhuo is surely just around a corner, ready to jump in and save me." Luo Yunhai was puzzled. Ninger showed her thunder ring with a smile. "Each time I'm in danger, the thunder ring flashes, and that means Big Brother Zhuo is here." Luo Yunhai sighed at how innocent and naive she was, even delusional some might say. It would be best if Big Brother Zhuo comes in the nick of time. But if you think he's going to show up each time you're in danger, won't you treat your life as a joke? Her brothers knew this as well and tried reasoning with her, but Xuaningxiang turned a deaf ear. A girl's fairy tale was impossible to dispel. Xuaningxiang's choice of words sure got the obvious reaction out of Lin Xianfeng. He was pissed and filled with bloodthirst. "Young Master Lin." His men glanced at him. Lin Xuanfeng's eyes were bloodshot as he barked, "Ignorant brat. Just kill them all and be done with them." His roar resounded in Luo Yunhai's group's ears, scaring them. Only Xuaningxiang was closely watching Thunder Ring for any signs, waiting for that spark of hope.